Chapter 3809. After passing the trial, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun rested for 2 days. Although it was only a short 3 days, this kind of test was very tiring for them. They didn't feel tired physically, but they were mentally exhausted. This exhaustion was filled with vicissitudes. Breaking through the inner demons was extremely difficult, and they didn't want to think about the scene when they broke through. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had a tacit understanding not to ask each other what they had seen in the last assessment. In fact, they also had some guesses in their hearts. After all, they knew each other very well. Shangguan Yingying and Wen Ziren entered closed-door cultivation wholeheartedly. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had both obtained inheritances, the pressure on them had increased. Once they succeeded, their strength would improve rapidly. Otherwise, the gap between their cultivations would be completely widened. With such a huge gap between them, it would be impossible for them to catch up without some kind of special opportunity. As companions, they naturally didn't want to be left behind like this. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two obtain inheritances, Ao Lingxiao couldn't hold back anymore. Back then, he had indeed failed to pass the trial in the Demon Training Tower. However, after learning some experiences from Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, he couldn't help but want to give it a try. After all, he was already here. If he could obtain an inheritance, it would be a good thing. As a result, while Ziren and Di Beichun were still in closed-door cultivation, Ao Lingxiao directly went to pass the trial. However, Ao Lingxiao's attempt didn't go as smoothly as he had expected. In the end, he still failed. Ao Lingxiao, the trial itself is a bit abnormal. Once you overcome your inner demons, this shouldn't be a problem. Di Beichun patted Ao Lingxiao's shoulder and comforted him. Hearing that, Ao Lingxiao smiled. My inner demons aren't as strong as yours. I already knew that when I came to pass the trial. Originally, when I saw you succeed, I also wanted to give it a try. However, the final result was still not enough. It doesn't matter. If we don't succeed this time, we can always try again, Bailey Hongzhuang said. However, Ao Lingxiao waved his hand. This matter has already become my inner demon. How difficult is it to overcome it? After saying that, Ao Lingxiao didn't say anything else and directly walked towards his residence. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. I think there's something wrong with Ao Lingxiao. His face is somewhat pale, and he seems to have lost his soul. It seems that the situation is as he said. That is no longer a demonic barrier, but a heart demon. Otherwise, his expression wouldn't be so ugly. Di Beichun's deep eyes flickered with the light of contemplation. Everyone would see something they didn't want to see the most during the assessment. It was just that some people could accept such a scene, while others could not. Judging from Ao Lingxiao's soulless expression, this scene was something he couldn't accept. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such an expression. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She faintly felt that Ao Lingxiao's current special personality might have something to do with something he couldn't accept. Chapter 3810. Ever since Ao Lingxiao failed the test, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had not seen him leave his room for a few days. Looks like Ao Lingxiao has a lot of sad things to worry about. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in such a state for so many days. Ziren walked out of his room after successfully breaking through to the 7th level of the Purple Realm. He couldn't help but sigh after knowing about Ao Lingxiao's situation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Anyway, we're not in a hurry to leave. We'll just wait for him to straighten out his thoughts. Ziren, you've already broken through. Yingying should be breaking through soon, right? That's right. Ziren nodded. Yingying's speed is slightly slower than mine. However, it should be tomorrow. Cultivating in this cultivation area is indeed quite fast. Just as everyone was conversing, a familiar voice suddenly entered their ears. You little fellows are really here. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others quickly turn around. As expected, Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua were walking towards them with smiles on their faces. Master Long, Instructor Yi, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others bowed with a trace of astonishment in their eyes. Why are you guys here? As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others spoke, Mo Yunjue's gaze also fell on Long Yanwei and Izihua. So this person was the Master Long that everyone was talking about. Izihua didn't immediately reply to Bailey Hongzhuang. Instead, his gaze quietly fell on Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue was wearing a black robe. His handsome face exuded a bone-chilling coldness, and his eyes were also cold. Just as the rumor said, this Mo Yunjue was a cold person. If I'm not wrong, this should be Mo Yunjue, young Master Mo. I am indeed Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue cupped his hands and said. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others suddenly understood. It turned out that Master Long and Master Long came for Mo Yunjue. However, this was within their expectations. They just did not expect Penglai Palace to let Long Yanwei and Master Long come to recruit him. In the past few days, many forces had come to recruit him, but they were all rejected by Mo Yunjue. Now that they had reunited, there was no reason for them to separate. As expected, heroes come from the young. Young Master Mo was able to obtain the legacy of the Devil Training Tower at such a young age. You are truly a hero of this generation, Izihua said with a smile. Senior, you flatter me. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, finding it very funny. Usually, when they saw Izihua, he had the appearance of a mentor. At this moment, seeing Izihua say such words to recruit people, it was really different from his usual style. Master Long, Mentor there are many people here. Why don't we go inside and talk? Di Beichen said. Long Yanwei nodded, subconsciously looked around, and nodded. Okay. After everyone walked into the house, everyone's expressions also relaxed and easygoing. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were most familiar with Long Yanwei and Master Long in Penglai Palace. Even if the two were seniors, they were also very casual. Master Long, Mentor, you came this time to recruit Yinju, right? Xiren said with a smile. Chapter 38:11. Master Long, didn't I rip you off last time? You've been looking at me like that ever since. Isn't this too depressing for me? When Xiren's face suddenly fell. The last time he ripped off Master Long, it was really a great deal for them. However, since then, he had been labeled as a treacherous person in Master Long's heart. When Xiren also felt very helpless about this. This was not the result he wanted. Looking at Xiren's appearance, Long Yanwei could not help but chuckle. Forget it, you don't have to act pitiful in front of me. Do you think I don't know that this is all an act? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also had a smile in their eyes. Master Long was only like this on the surface. In fact, he had always been very good to them. Even when he was ripped off before, Master Long had never cared. Right? Why isn't Shangwan Yingying here? Long Yanwei looked at Xiren and the others. One had to know that the four of them had always been together. Yingying is cultivating in seclusion. She will soon break through to the 7th level of the Purple Realm. Xiren smiled faintly. Hearing this, Long Yanwei and Izihua looked at each other. They could not help but sigh in their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' improvement speed was really not slow. When they first joined the Penglai Palace, they were only at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. Now, in just a few short months, they were about to break through to the 7th level of the Purple Realm. Xiren and Shangwan Yingying already had this kind of strength before they even passed the level, not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who had already passed the level. At this moment, even Long Yanwei himself was a little emotional. The reason why he had recruited Bailey Hongzhuang and the others was because of their outstanding combat strength. More importantly, it was because Bailey Hongzhuang's special contract beast that attracted his attention. However, he himself did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to be so outstanding, far exceeding his expectations. So that's how it is. The speed of your improvement is really fast. Izihua said with a smile. Previously, you were accepted as Inner Palace disciples because of an exception. After you return this time, you will truly have the qualifications to become Inner Palace disciples. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and smiled. Indeed, when they were in the inner hall, they did not have a proper status. The way everyone looked at them made them feel very unhappy. After he returned, he believed that no one would bring up this matter again. After all, they've been looked down upon by everyone, and they were very unhappy in their hearts. Young Master Emo, I wonder if you are willing to join our Penglai Palace. Long Yanwei looked at Emo Yunjue. His usually dignified face was now amiable and approachable. Beichin and the others are inner palace disciples of our Penglai Palace. Since you're friends with them, why don't you join Penglai Palace as well? Emo Yunjue looked at Long Yanwei. He had come this time to help Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Now that Di Beichin's physique problem had been solved and everyone was not ready to leave for the time being, he would naturally stay here for a while. Moreover, he also found that cultivating here was very helpful in improving his strength. Thinking of this, Emo Yunjue was about to agree. At this moment, Xiren's voice suddenly rang out. Chapter 38:12. Although Yunju and we are good friends, and it is indeed more convenient for him to join Penglai Palace, isn't it too insincere for you to ask Yunju to join just like that? When Xiren looked at Long Yanwei, the other forces have all offered all kinds of good conditions for Yunju to consider. I know that our Penglai Palace is the leader of the forces on Penglai Island, but since we have specially recruited him, we should give him some good treatment. Yunju is the first inheritor of the Demon Training Tower after 100 years. Listening to Xiren's words, Long Yanwei said helplessly, I knew from the beginning that you were up to something, but you didn't admit it. Now look, forget it. Tell me, what conditions do you want? Izihua also smiled and shook his head. Long Yanwei had completely fallen into the hands of these little guys. Although the performance of these little guys was really outstanding and gave Long Yanwei face, these little guys were not soft-hearted when it came to extorting. Thinking of this, Izihua quietly glanced at Long Yanwei. Only then did he realize that although Long Yanwei's face revealed a helpless expression, the depths of his eyes were clearly overflowing with a smile. Obviously, Long Yanwei was not unhappy about this matter. When Xiren smiled brightly and walked to Long Yanwei's side. Master Long, we won't make any excessive conditions. Yunju is a genius. Since he wants to join Penglai Palace, the treatment can't be too good, but at least it can't be worse than ours. Why don't you give him a contract beast? As his voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' eyes also fell on Long Yanwei. In fact, they were just giving it a try. If Long Yanwei could give Emo Yunjue a contract beast, it would naturally be the best. This was also what Emo Yunjue needed. However, if Long Yanwei was unwilling, Emo Yunjue still had to join Penglai Palace. They all understood in their hearts that Long Yanwei had already made an exception by being able to take 3 contract beasts from him. If Long Yanwei was unwilling, they would not force him. Long Yanwei glanced at Xiren. I knew that you guys had the idea of my demon pet egg. Presumably, before I came, you guys had already made up your mind, right? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled slightly. Long Yanwei's guess was right. They had indeed thought of all this a long time ago. Seeing that Long Yanwei wasn't angry, Emo Yunjue's smile widened a little. It seemed that this matter really had a chance. Yun's words, Yunju, you can give him a demon pet egg. Even if it's to give the demon training tower face, you can give him a demon pet egg. The smile on Xiren's face became even more brilliant. Anyway, this demon pet egg is also a reward for other disciples. It's the same. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang also said, Master Long, Yunju's strength is very outstanding. This kind of recruitment condition is actually not excessive. That's right, Master Long. You won't be disappointed. Emo Yunjue said. Emo Yunjue also cupped his hands towards Long Yanwei. Master Long, if you agree, I will join Penglai Palace. Chapter 38:13. Hearing this, Izihua couldn't help but chuckle. Then there's no other way. I can't refuse them. The demon pet egg is yours, so you can only make your own decision. Since you're all saying the same thing, if I don't agree, it would seem that I'm unreasonable. Since that's the case, then I'll agree to it. Long Yanwei said with a smile. In fact, before he set off, he had already expected such a situation. What's more, Emo Yunjue was a cultivation genius, so the conditions offered by the other forces would definitely not be bad. Even if Mo Yunjue and Bailey Hongzhuang were good friends, if they wanted to pull Mo Yunjue over without paying anything, it would indeed be a bit of ancient Buddha's kindness. He believed that the reason why the palace master asked him to come here was also because of this. Seeing that Long Yanwei directly agreed, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but have a thick smile on their faces. "Thank you, Master Long," Mo Yunjue and the others said in unison. Since young Master Mo has already agreed to join the Penglai Palace, then the purpose of our trip has been achieved. Long Yanwei slowly opened his mouth. "As for the demon pet egg, you can come to me to choose when you return to the Penglai Palace. How about it?" Mo Yunjue nodded, cupped his hands, and said, "Thank you, Master Long. You're welcome. It's what I should do." Izihua smiled as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. He felt that Long Yanwei really liked these little fellows, so when he was with them, he would make exceptions again and again. However, to be honest, these little fellows were indeed hard to dislike. "When do you plan to return to the Penglai Palace?" Izihua asked. "After Ying breaks through, I will go with Ying to challenge the trial. After the trial is over, we will return," when Xiren said. Izihua's eyes flashed with understanding. "Shangguan Ying should be able to break through soon, right?" "Yes." Xiren nodded. "It should be tonight. Yanwei, since they're going back in a few days, why don't we stay here for a few more days? When the time comes, we can go back together with them. I just happen to want to take a look at the Devil Training Tower." Hearing Izihua's words, Long Yanwei replied, "Sure, this Devil Training Pagoda has been very lively recently. This time, you guys have successfully passed the Demon Training Tower. This is a big limelight. Now, in the entire Penglai Palace, you guys are in the limelight. If this continues, some disciples of the Inner Palace will be dissatisfied. You have only joined the Penglai Palace for a few months, and almost all the hot news is related to you." Izihua's eyes swept over Bailey Hongzhuang and the others one by one. What he said was really true. The matter of Bailey Hongzhuang's healing medicine was not over yet, and now there was such news. In the past few months, every sensational news was caused by them. "You can't blame us for this." Bailey Hongzhuang spread her hands. Actually, they were very innocent. From the beginning to the end, they did not want to be in the limelight. It was just that in the end, this matter fell on their heads. This matter was caused by Master Long. If we attract public anger, Master Long will have to help us. Di Beichen's lips slowly hooked up into an evil smile. Speaking of which, if Long Yuanwei had not recruited them back, there would not have been so many things that would have happened. Chapter 38:14. All of a sudden, the atmosphere in the room became extremely harmonious. Long Yanwei and Izihua were not arrogant people. In addition, they had a very familiar relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang and others. Everyone didn't care at all. "I heard that you issued a bounty to take Chu Yinyao's life." Izihua looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. This matter was very loud. When the bounty was just issued, the entire Penglai Palace also broke out in a frenzy. No one expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would have a conflict with Chu Yunyao, and Bailey Hongzhuang's bounty was issued so blatantly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "Yes, I have some grudges with Chu Yunyao. I didn't mean to stop you. I just heard the news and wanted to confirm it with you." Izawa said, "What happened in Qingshan before is also related to you, right?" Bailey Hongzhuang and others looked at each other and admitted it. Izihua had always been well informed. No matter what the news was, it could not be hidden from him. Since he asked now, he must have already confirmed the news. This bounty is extremely effective for hunting down the cultivators outside the forces, but it is not so easy to deal with the cultivators inside the forces. As long as Chu Yinyao does not leave the Penglai Palace, the possibility of the success of this bounty is very small. Long Yanwei reminded. He was no stranger to Chu Yinyao. This woman's strength was good, but she always liked to cause trouble, and the trouble she caused was not small. In contrast, he felt that Chu Yinyao's sister Chu Yunshang was much better. Hearing the concern in Long Yanwei's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression softened a little. "Thank you for your concern, Master Long, but I didn't intend to take her life through this bounty. I just gave her a warning first. As for the real end of the grudge, I have to do it myself. Her ink-black phoenix-like eyes flashed with a cold and resolute light. Chu Yinyao tortured Shangwan Yingying like that and seriously injured her. If she didn't get back at her, it would not be her style. Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua also understood the meaning behind Bailey Hongshuang's words. It seemed that the enmity between the two of them could not be resolved. Forget it. You can deal with the matters between you disciples yourselves. We won't interfere. Yi Zihua smiled faintly. You guys should rest well. We'll go take a look at the other places in the demon training tower. After Long Yanwei and the other two left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three sat in the house with joyful smiles on their faces. I didn't think that Master Long would agree so easily this time. I thought it would take some effort. When Xiren chuckled. He had always heard that Long Yanwei was very stingy when it came to demon pet eggs. It was too difficult for ordinary people to get a demon pet egg from him. However, in his opinion, Master Long was very generous. Thank you so much for this matter. If you didn't speak, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to obtain this demon pet egg. Mo Yunjue cupped his fists and thanked him. With his personality, he would never ask for help. Therefore, even though Xiren had already told him that he could raise this condition, he did not say it out loud. Chapter 38:15. Listening to Mo Yunjue's words, when Xiren waved his hand and said, "You're welcome. We are all friends. There is no need to thank me for such a small thing. It's your first time meeting Master Long and the others, so it's not good for you to ask. However, we're already familiar with Master Long. Although Master Long usually acts very stingy, he's actually not stingy. He's especially very generous to cultivators with strength. Although Xiren often extorted Master Long, in fact, he valued Master Long very much in his heart. He knew very well that Master Long was very tolerant of them. If not, Master Long would not have helped them time and time again. If Master Long did not want to agree, even if he tried his best to extort him, it would be useless. In the end, this was Master Long's own idea. Hongzhuang, it seems that your bounty this time is not small. The entire Penglai Palace already knows about it. Presumably, Chu Yinyao must be very depressed now. The effect you want has been achieved. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, with a faint smile on her lips. Chu Yinyao has brought us so much trouble. Naturally, we can't let her be happy. Let her suffer during this time. When we go back, she will not be as simple as suffering. At night, as Xiren expected, Shangwan Yingying successfully broke through to the 7th level of the Purple Realm. I finally succeeded in breaking through. A happy smile appeared on Shangwan Yingying's face. She quickly walked out of the house and couldn't wait to tell Bailey Hongzhuang the news of her breakthrough. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled and congratulated them. Then tomorrow you can go to the challenge area to try it out. Shangwan Yingying nodded. I also want to see how perverted the content of the challenge is. If I can pass it, that would be great. Let's do our best. Xiren smiled casually, but there was a firm and persistent light in the depths of his eyes. When he was in the blood-refining tower, he was unable to obtain the inheritance. This time he came to the demon-refining tower. He hoped that he could succeed once. After you are done, we can return to the Penglai Palace. When Shangwan Yingying found out that Long Yanwei had personally come to recruit Mo Yunjue, her eyes flashed with deep surprise. Yunjue, I never thought that you would actually have such face to be able to make Lord Long personally come to recruit you. I'm sure that when we return, the treatment will definitely not be bad. Although you are temporarily an outer disciple after going to Penglai Palace, I believe that you will soon be promoted to an inner disciple. After all, your strength is enough, Di Beichen said slowly. The next day, at dawn, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others headed to the challenge area. When they arrived at the challenge area, they found that it was already filled with cultivators. In the past few days, more and more people had come to the challenge area. Now, if they wanted to go through the challenge area, they had to queue up. Upon realizing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others felt helpless. The challenge area is really too popular now. It seems that you will have to wait for a while before you can go in. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Before this, the challenge area had always been very deserted. There was no need to wait at all. Chapter 38:16. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others appeared in the trial area, everyone's gazes fell on them. Right now, they were all popular figures in the demon training tower. Everyone wanted to get close to them, but unfortunately, ever since they succeeded in passing the trial, they had been cultivating and did not appear at all. Not only that, the demon training tower had also made a rule that they were not allowed to casually disturb Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Thus, even if they wanted to get close to them, they could only watch from the side and not dare to disturb them. I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to come here again. It seems at this time, it should be when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying who are going to break through. You guessed right, they're all here to break through. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have succeeded, they must have told the secret to win Xiren and Shangguan Yingying. Maybe they can also succeed this time. I don't really believe that. The assessment of the demon training tower is aimed at the heart of a cultivator. If the heart is not strong enough to break through the demon barrier, then it will be impossible to succeed. The so-called experience is actually not very useful. That's true. Everyone nodded their heads. There were already many cultivators present who had tried to pass the trial, so they had a certain understanding of the content of the trial. It was just that they were unable to succeed the first time, so they tried many times in a row but still failed. Not long after, it was when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's turn. We're going in. Good luck, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others said together. After when Xiren and Shangguan Ying entered the trial area, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others waited outside the trial. It was hard to say whether or not when Xiren and his companion would succeed. In any case, they planned to wait here for the next 3 days. This way, if they succeeded, they would be able to share the joy immediately. After Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua strolled around the demon training tower, they went to see Steward Qin. When Steward Qin saw the two of them, he was very envious. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were all disciples of the Penglai Palace. This was truly a glorious moment. Although they had been in the limelight in the magic tower recently, the cultivators who had obtained the inheritance all came from the Penglai Palace. It could be assumed that the Penglai Palace's glory was no less than the magic towers. It was a pity that the main purpose of the demonic training tower was to allow cultivators to come here to challenge the challenges, as there was no sect here. Otherwise, he would have already recruited Bailey Hongzhuang and the others into his sect. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were waiting in the challenge area, Ao Lingxiao, who had disappeared for a few days, finally appeared in front of them. Seeing Ao Lingxiao's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but smile. Xiren and the others have already started? Ao Lingxiao asked. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. They just went in today. By the way, you've been busy cultivating these few days. Yesterday, Master Long and Minter came over. Now, Yinju is also a disciple of our Penglai Palace. Master Long and the others came personally. Ao Lingxiao was very surprised. He had stayed in the Penglai Palace for a period of time, so he naturally knew that Master Long and Minter didn't need to personally come to recruit disciples. Chapter 38:17. Yes, I didn't expect Master Long and the others to come personally. Even we were very surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. It seemed that the cultivators who obtained the inheritance of the demon training pagoda had always been valued by the major forces. With Mo Yunjue's strength, it's normal for him to receive such treatment. Ao Lingxiao smiled and turned his gaze to Mo Yunjue. With your current strength, no matter which sect you join, you'll be valued more. Even on the Penglai Island, there are very few cultivators in the Star Realm. The Penglai Palace is already the largest force on the Penglai Island. It's naturally great that I can join. Mo Yunjue's eyes rippled with a trace of light. In fact, it didn't matter to him which force he joined. He only came here to meet up with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. It was naturally excellent to be able to improve his strength. He also knew very well that he would not stay in the Penglai Palace forever. At this time, Ao Lingxiao's gaze turned to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun and said, Di Beichun, I have something to tell you. Hearing this, Di Beichun looked at Ao Lingxiao in surprise, but still nodded and said, Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Ao Lingxiao thoughtfully. Earlier, she felt that Ao Lingxiao seemed to have something to tell them, but was interrupted by the appearance of Steward Qin. Now, Ao Lingxiao specially came to find Yi Beichen. Could it be that he wanted to tell them the reason why he had been following them all this time? Yunjue, then we will leave for a while. Di Beichen said. Mo Yunjue nodded. You guys go. When Di Beichen left, he also pulled Bailey Hongzhuang with him. For him, there was no news that he couldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang know. Ao Lingxiao was not surprised to see Di Beichen's actions. After all, he had always seen the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. These two people had no secrets to speak of. Even in the entire Penglai Island, there were very few couples who had such a good relationship like them. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two returned to the house, Di Beichen looked at Ao Lingxiao and said, "Just say what you want to say." Ao Lingxiao's expression was complicated as he looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. He did not immediately speak, but fell into silence. In fact, until now, he did not know what to say. Di Beichen, I want to confirm something with you first. If it is confirmed, then I will say it. If not, then my judgment is wrong. Ao Lingxiao said. Di Beichen nodded slightly and said, Okay, say it. I want to ask, since you were born, have you always been with your parents? As soon as the words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen could not help but look at each other. A touch of surprise appeared in their eyes. They did not expect that Ao Lingxiao wanted to confirm this question. Could it be that what he wanted to say was related to Di Beichen's background? Thinking of this possibility, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's expressions became more dignified. After all, this matter had always been of great concern to them. Unfortunately, after such a long time, they could not find any clues related to Di Beichen's background. Chapter 38:18. Ao Lingxiao didn't miss the shocked expressions on Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's faces. His eyes brightened. It seemed that his guess was somewhat credible. I've never met my parents. I was adopted by my master. Di Beichen spoke slowly in a deep voice. Why are you asking me this question? Actually, this is just my guess. Ao Lingxiao's expression was somewhat complicated. From the first time I saw you, I felt that your appearance was somewhat familiar. Familiar? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes brightened. Where have you seen someone who looks like Beichen? Di Beichen's appearance was so outstanding that there weren't many people who could look like him. If Ao Lingxiao had seen someone who looked like Di Beichen somewhere else, perhaps that person was Di Beichen's relative. That's someone from the Di family. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but look at each other. If that person's surname was really Di, then there really was some possibility. After all, the only keepsake Di Beichen had on him was the jade pendant with the word Di written on it. Back then, Citian had guessed that the words written on the jade pendant might be Di Beichen's surname, so he named Di Beichen. Could it be that the Di family was really Di Beichen's family? Ao Lingxiao saw that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's faces were filled with doubt. In his heart, he knew that Di Beichen must be very curious about his background. If he only felt that Di Beichen's appearance was somewhat similar to that of the Di family's people, then it was fine. But Di Beichen was actually adopted, then perhaps his guess might be right. My clan has a certain relationship with the Di clan. In the past, I've seen a portrait of a senior of the Di clan in my clan. The person in that portrait was extremely similar to Di Beichen. As he spoke, Ao Lingxiao's gaze landed on Di Beichen. Because of this, I was very surprised when I first saw you. However, I also know that my baseless guess is very laughable and has no basis to speak of, so I've been following you all this time to confirm this point. Just because you feel that I look similar to the elders of the Di clan, you feel that I'm a member of the Di clan? Di Beichen frowned. If Ao Lingxiao had any other evidence, he might have believed it. However, it was a bit too ridiculous to confirm this based on the similarity of their appearances. After all, there were so many people in this world, and there were definitely a lot of people who looked alike, but there was no blood relationship between them. Ao Lingxiao shook his head. No, it's not just that. What else? Bailey Hongzhuang quickly asked. This was Di Beichen's obsession. She had always hoped to help Di Beichen find his birth parents. Now that she finally had some clues, she naturally wouldn't want to give up. Actually, the D family lost a child more than 20 years ago. That child was the grandson of the head of the D family. A.O. Lingxiao said slowly. A.O. Lingxiao said slowly. All these years, the D family has been searching for his whereabouts. However, there has been no news. This is something that we all know. The D family has almost searched everywhere, but there is no trace of him. Chapter 38:19. The D family is a family of cultivators. The grandson of the head of the family must be a genius cultivator. Hearing A.O. Lingxiao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were confused. Everything A.O. Lingxiao said could be connected to Di Beichen. However, there should be many cultivators who fit this description. How could they be sure that this was related to Di Beichen? All these years, I've been trying to find my birth parents. However, although the things you said seem to be related to me, there is no evidence to prove it. Di Beichen's deep black eyes flashed with the light of thinking. He didn't lose his mind just because A.O. Lingxiao said that this matter was related to him. Thinking about it carefully, this was just a side issue. It seemed to be related, but in reality, it was just a clue that couldn't withstand a single blow. A.O. Lingxiao also knew that what he said wasn't that trustworthy. However, he had an extraordinary intuition. Although there was no reason for this intuition, it was always very accurate. He felt that Di Beichen was the person he was looking for. Actually, there's one more thing that can be confirmed. A.O. Lingxiao muttered. What is it? Bailey Hongzhuang asked aloud, her ink-black phoenix eyes flashing with deep concern. If she could really be sure, then that would be great. I wonder if you have heard of the cursed body. After A.O. Lingxiao said this, he felt a little complicated. Actually, this was the proof that could confirm whether Di Beichen was related to the D family. However, even he felt that this possibility wasn't very high. As A.O. Lingxiao's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were both stunned. Their faces were filled with disbelief and astonishment. Apart from them, this was the first time they had heard of the cursed body from another cultivator. A.O. Lingxiao naturally noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's expressions. He couldn't help but ask, "You have heard of it?" At this moment, even A.O. Lingxiao found it hard to believe. The cursed body was an extremely rare body type. He felt that outside of Penglai Island, many people had never even heard of the existence of such a body type. If Bailey Hongzhuang and the others hadn't confirmed that A.O. Lingxiao had never heard of Di Beichen's cursed physique, they wouldn't have believed that there was such a coincidence. Di Beichen nodded. That's right. He didn't directly say that he had the cursed physique. Instead, he looked at A.O. Lingxiao. He wanted to know what A.O. Lingxiao would say next. As far as I know, the lost child of the D family has the cursed body. In fact, this had always been a characteristic of the D family. Their family would often have cultivators with a cursed physique. The cursed physique was a very complicated physique. In the early stages of cultivation, it would suppress the cultivation speed of the cultivator. However, if the later stages were to transform into the heavenly mandate physique, then the cultivator would soar to the sky. It was precisely because of this that the D family was able to have such an amazing status. However, if the cultivator couldn't transform the physique, then the cultivator would gradually become paralyzed and eventually die. In the past, the D family hadn't mastered this method. However, ever since they successfully transformed the cursed physique into the heavenly mandate physique, their family had rapidly improved. Chapter 38:20. If Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were still doubtful of A.O. Lingxiao's judgment, they were now certain that Di Beichen might really be related to the D family after hearing A.O. Lingxiao's words. After all, if it was just based on looks, it could still be a coincidence. However, if the cursed body was the same, it could not be explained by mere coincidence. At that moment, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's feelings were complicated. Bailey Hongzhuang did not expect to find clues about Di Beichen's background here. It was really a pleasant surprise. Most importantly, according to A.O. Lingxiao's words, Di Beichen's parents definitely did not abandon him on purpose. Otherwise, they would not have been searching for him all these years. This was the best news for them. She had been with Beichen for so long. so she understood Beichen's thoughts very well. In comparison, if Beichen's parents really abandoned him on purpose, then he would rather not find Beichen's parents, so as not to add to his sadness. However, if it was not on purpose, then it should be a great comfort to Beichen. After all, no one would want to be abandoned. After A.O. Ling Xiao finished speaking, he realized that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang had fallen into silence. It was as if they were thinking about their own matters and did not answer his question. Seeing this, A.O. Ling Xiao was a little confused. He did not know if his guess was right or wrong. From Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang's expressions, he could not determine any useful information. Di Beichen's feelings were even more complicated. He had always been curious about his own background. Especially after learning about Bailey Hongzhuang's life, he also had some expectations in his heart. He hoped that he was also left behind because of some forced reasons and not deliberately abandoned. Although he had not met anyone from the Di family yet, according to A.O. Ling Xiao's information, he felt that he could be the lost child of the Di family. However, this was the first time he had heard of the Di family. Actually, I have the cursed body. Di Beichen slowly spoke in a deep voice. He raised his head and looked at A.O. Ling Xiao. His eyes were as deep as the sea, shining brightly. Following Di Beichen's words, A.O. Ling Xiao could not help but be stunned. He stared at Di Beichen in a daze and could not recover for a moment. However, after he confirmed that he did not hear wrongly, a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. Your body physique is really the cursed body? A.O. Ling Xiao's gaze was fixed on Di Beichen's body. He was afraid that Di Beichen would deny it. If Di Beichen really had the cursed body, then he could say that Di Beichen was the Di family's lost young master. Di Beichen nodded. That's right. At this moment, Di Beichen finally understood why he had such a special body physique. It turned out that this was the special characteristic of the Di family. However, A.O. Ling Xiao could not help but frown. From what I know, the cursed body physique is an extremely rare body physique. Only the Di family has the solution to it. Logically speaking, with your current age and strength, you should not be able to stand up again. However, you are still fine. Chapter 38:21. This is all thanks to my wife. Di Beichen turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. His gaze was so gentle that it could overflow with tears. To tell you the truth, when I first met Hongzhuang, I could only sit in a wheelchair. I had thought that I would never be able to stand up again. It was Hongzhuang who healed me and gave me the chance to stand up again. This was something that Di Beichen would never forget. Back then, it was Bailey Hongzhuang who had given him hope. He could still remember the beautiful white figure who had healed him under the peach blossom tree. His wife had slowly walked into his heart from that moment onwards. At the same time, it was also from that moment onwards that he had decided that he would walk down this path with his wife for the rest of his life. Now that he recalled everything that had happened in Fengbo country, the corners of his lips could not help but curl into a smile. Even though they had been through many trials and tribulations together, it was a good thing that they were finally able to hold hands and accompany each other. Noticing the look in Di Beichen's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile blossomed like a flower. To her, the general's residence in Fengbo country was a place that she loathed the most. However, because of Di Beichen's existence, she could only remember the good times and completely forget the unbearable memories of the past. Hearing Di Beichen's words, A.O. Ling Xiao finally came to his senses. Bailey Hongzhuang was an outstanding doctor with exceptional medical skills. This was evident from the healing medicine that Bailey Hongzhuang had concocted. She had only been to the training grounds of the Inner Palace once, yet she was able to concoct such an effective healing medicine. This showed just how amazing her medical skills were. In that case, it was very possible that Bailey Hongzhuang had cured Di Beichen of his cursed body. I see. A.O. Ling Xiao stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. I never thought that junior sister Bailey would be able to cure the cursed body. I'm truly in awe of you. The cursed physique was an extremely difficult physique to break. According to what he knew, back then, the Di family had spent a lot of effort to solve this problem. In the end, they had succeeded in solving this problem. Logically speaking, It was impossible for the outside world to know of the existence of the cursed body. However, not only was Bailey Hongzhuang able to diagnose Di Beichen at such a young age, but she had also helped Di Beichen change his physique. She was truly extraordinary. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Senior brother Ao, you flatter me. Is there a D clan on Penglai Island? Why haven't I heard of it before? Di Beichen couldn't help but ask. Even though there were all sorts of big and small forces on Penglai Island, according to what he knew, the forces here were all sects and not aristocratic families. Actually, the Supreme D clan isn't here. Ao Lingxiao spoke. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Could it be in the outside world? According to what she knew, there wasn't a Supreme D clan in the outside world. If there really was one, her grandfather would have already gone to ask about it. It was impossible that there wasn't any news about Di Beichen until now. Could it be that it was a very small clan, so her grandfather didn't notice it? No. Ao Lingxiao shook his head. The Supreme D clan is in a place that is even more powerful than Penglai Island, the upper realm. The moment he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but be stunned. Their faces flashed with intense astonishment. What? There's a place that's even more powerful than Penglai Island? Chapter 38:22. Hearing this news, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. This was beyond their expectations. When they first learned that there was a place called Penglai Island, they were already very surprised. Now that they heard from Ao Lingxiao that there was an even more powerful place, they were truly astonished. Actually, Penglai Island is just an intermediate station between the upper realm and the outside world. When the cultivators from the outside world reach a certain level of strength, they can come to Penglai Island and go to the upper realm. In the past, Penglai Island was just an island with very few cultivators. It was just a passage. However, as the number of the skeleton army gradually increased, the upper realm was worried that it would affect the lives of the people from the outside world. So, they gathered some cultivators here. Over time, Penglai Island gradually expanded to become what it is now. So that's how it is. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen suddenly understood. The upper realm is actually not much different from the outside world. It's just that the cultivators there are much stronger. When the forces that controlled the power of darkness appeared, the entire Shangxian continent was in chaos. Wars broke out everywhere, and countless experts fell. Since that war, the structure of the Shangxian continent changed. It was divided into the upper realm and the outer realm. This is because when the war broke out, the major forces worked together to separate the two continents in order to protect the ordinary people from being implicated. So, the outer realm you were in before was just the ordinary people in the past. It's just that after so many years, it has become what it is now. I didn't expect it to be like this. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a light of surprise. He never thought that the Shangxian continent would have such a change. He thought that the place he lived in before was the most vast world. Now, he knew that it was not like that at all. It was just a corner of the world. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a bright light. She felt that the current Shangxian continent was very strange. 1,000 years ago, the cultivators in the Shangxian continent were clearly much stronger than they were now. She was wondering why, after such a long time, the cultivators' strength had not improved. Instead, it had regressed. It turned out that this was the most fundamental reason. If that was the case, then it was very likely that the powerful beings she was familiar with were currently in the upper realm. Then, would the Bailey family still exist? Back then, she had left because of an accident. Now that 1,000 years had passed, he didn't know if she was still around. Previously, when we asked Master Long about this matter, Master Long only said that we hadn't reached that level yet, so he wouldn't tell us for now. Senior brother Ao, how do you know all this? Bailey Hongzhuang's clear and beautiful eyes gazed at Ao Lingxiao. She secretly thought in her heart, as early as when she first met Ao Lingxiao, she felt that this Ao Lingxiao was very strange. It seems that Ao Lingxiao's identity was not simple. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to know so many things. Hearing this, Ao Lingxiao glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen and said, "To be honest, I was originally from the upper realm. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Chapter 38:23. If it was just for fun, Ao Lingxiao didn't need to join Penglai Island. Moreover, with Ao Lingxiao's temperament, he didn't seem like a playful person. At this time, Ao Lingxiao suddenly looked at Di Beichen. Di, the junior brother, if it is confirmed that you are really the young master of the Di family, then at that time can you do me a favor? Hearing this, Di Beichen's gaze became serious. His intuition told him that the favor Ao Lingxiao wanted him to do wasn't simple. What favor? Help me take back my family. Ao Lingxiao clenched his fists, his eyes flashing with hatred. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were slightly stunned. Even though they had guessed that the favor Ao Lingxiao wanted them to do wouldn't be easy, it was still beyond their expectations. Take back your family? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Senior brother Ao, even if Di Beichen is really a member of the Di family, isn't it too difficult for him to help you take back your family? Ao Lingxiao shook his head. It's not difficult. Junior brother Di can definitely help me. Why are you so sure that I can help you? Di Beichen felt a little strange. Even if he was really a member of the Di family, how could he do all this with his strength? The aristocratic families of the upper realm weren't ordinary powerful. Moreover, if he really returned to the Di family, who knew what kind of attitude the Di family would have towards him? Regarding this, Di Beichen had mixed feelings. Although the Di family had been searching for their descendants for so many years, they hadn't interacted with each other for so many years. Who knew what kind of scene it would be when they met again? When he first heard this news, Di Beichen was indeed very happy. However, after thinking about it carefully, he calmed down a lot. Aristocratic families weren't as warm as small families. Maybe there were many people in the family who didn't want him to go back. Everything was unknown. Actually, when I was chased out of the clan, an elder in the clan told me that as long as I left the upper realm, it would be very difficult for my brother to find me. Not only that, she even asked me to find a descendant of the Di clan who was stranded outside. As long as I could find that descendant, I would have a chance to take back the Di clan. At that time, I only thought that she was trying to comfort me. After all, the Di family had been searching for that person for so many years and still couldn't find him. How could I possibly find him by myself? It wasn't until I met you that I realized what she said was true. Since I was able to find you, I naturally believe that you can help me take back my family. Ao Lingxiao looked earnestly at Di Beichen. The next moment, under the shocked gazes of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, Ao Lingxiao knelt in front of Di Beichen. Junior brother Di, I beg you, please help me. Senior brother Ao, what are you doing? Get up. Di Beichen hurriedly went to help Ao Lingxiao up. What Ao Lingxiao was doing was completely different from what he usually did. However, Ao Lingxiao was still kneeling on the ground, unwilling to get up. Chapter 38:24. Di Beichen couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. They thought it was a good thing to be able to find some clues about Ao Lingxiao's background. They didn't expect such a thing to happen. Bailey Hongzhuang also frowned. Judging from Ao Lingxiao's expression, she knew it wasn't a simple matter. She wasn't unfamiliar with such a thing. After all, she had taken back the Lan clan with her parents. If they didn't have enough strength, it would be impossible to accomplish such a thing. Moreover, the aristocratic families of the upper realm were obviously very powerful. It was impossible for them to accomplish such a thing. Even if Di Beichen became a member of the Di family, he couldn't ask the entire Di family to help Ao Lingxiao take back the Lan clan. The Di family wouldn't be willing to do that. Senior brother Ao, it's not that we don't want to help you. It's just that we don't have the strength to do it. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She looked a little troubled. Previously, she felt that Ao Lingxiao was always in a bad mood. Something must have happened to him with such a strange temperament. At this moment, after knowing all of this, she felt that this matter was extraordinarily heavy. I'm not forcing you. It's just that I can't see any hope other than you guys. If you can't help me when the time comes, then forget it. If you can, I beg you to help me. From now on, my life is yours. Ao Lingxiao looked very serious. He had already thought it through. As long as Di Beichen agreed, he would follow Di Beichen's lead in the future. Looking at Ao Ling Xiao, Deep Beichun pondered for a moment. Although he hadn't known Ao Ling Xiao for long, he knew that Ao Ling Xiao was a trustworthy person. Thinking about it, Ao Ling Xiao's current personality most likely had something to do with what happened back then. It was probably also related to his obsession that he couldn't pass the test. Senior brother Ao, get up first, Di Beichun said in a low voice. You have to tell me what happened to your family before I decide whether to help you or not. If Ao Ling Xiao was truly harmed by a scoundrel, then as a friend, he would do his best to help. If that wasn't the case, then he naturally couldn't help. Seeing that Di Beichun had agreed, Ao Ling Xiao understood that it was inappropriate for him to ask for Di Beichun's help. He immediately stood up and said, Okay, actually, I'm from the Upper Realms Ao clan. Speaking of which, my clan has quite a bit of relationship with the Supreme Clan. Hearing this, Di Beichun and Ao Ling Xiao didn't find it strange. If they didn't have some connections, Ao Ling Xiao wouldn't have thought that Di Beichun was a member of the Di family just by looking at his appearance. My father was the clan lord of Ao clan, but he was suddenly killed 2 years ago. At that time, my elder brother and I were very surprised. We only wanted to find my father's murderer and avenge him. However, my father had already passed away at that time, so the clan couldn't do without a clan lord. Therefore, everyone began to elect a new clan lord. My strength was stronger than my elder brother's. My father had also intended to pass the position of clan lord to me when he was still alive. Everyone in the clan knew this. Therefore, everything was logical. However, when I was about to ascend to the position of clan lord, an unforeseen event occurred in the clan. Chapter 38:25. At this point, Ao Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly surged with anger. His eyes suddenly turned red as he gritted his teeth and said, That day, I still didn't know what had happened, but I found out that my mother had suddenly died. When I felt it, my mother was already on her last breath. She looked at me like that. Finally, she said my brother's name. I never thought that in order to obtain the patriarch's position, my big brother would even lay his hands on my mother. When I heard the news, I couldn't believe it. Before I could react, my brother had already brought all the elders of the family here and said that I had killed my mother because the dagger that had pierced my mother's body was the one that I used most of the time. But only I knew that 2 days ago, my brother had said that he wanted to take a look and then took the dagger away. I didn't think much of it at that time. Who would have thought that it was my brother's plot? In order to become the head of the family, my brother had colluded with the Jun family and caused some of our family's properties to fall into the hands of the Jun family. However, my brother pushed all the blame to me and said that I was the one who had colluded with the Jun family. For this reason, he had arranged all kinds of evidence. The people of the Jun family also pointed out that I was the one who had done it. At that time, I couldn't defend myself. In the face of all kinds of evidence, my explanation was powerless. Since then, I had become a traitor in the eyes of the family. All the elders hated me even more. After doing this, my brother still wasn't satisfied and wanted to take my life. It was my wet nurse who secretly let me out. In the entire family, only she believed me. She believed that I wasn't the one who had done it. As for the matter of looking for you, it was also my wet nurse who told me. A trace of emotion flashed in Ao Ling Xiao's eyes. The expression of anger on his face was abnormally strong. Even though this whole thing had happened 2 years ago, to him, it was as if it had happened yesterday. It was still vivid in his mind, and he couldn't forget it. After this incident, I knew that my father's death was definitely related to the Jun family. All these years, the Jun family had always wanted to strengthen themselves, so they tried to annex all kinds of small families. Back then, not long after I fled, I was discovered by my big brother, Ao Lingjing. He chased me all the way. At that time, I was already exhausted. In the end, I was heavily injured by him. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to escape. However, since then, my cultivation has declined a lot, and I've become what I am now. As Ao Lingxiao spoke, his hands clenched into fists. In the past 2 years, I have been staying in Penglai Palace, but I have never forgotten about this matter. Taking back the clan is not the most important thing, but I must kill this bastard and avenge my parents. His dark eyes were bloodshot. Ao Ling Xiao was filled with righteous indignation. His expression was pained, and there were tears at the corners of his eyes. He could not tolerate such a person continuing to be free and unfettered. His parents had raised him, but he had done such a thing that was worse than a pig or a dog. If he couldn't avenge his parents, then there was no justice in this world. Chapter 38:26. After Bailey Hongzhuang heard Ao Lingxiao's story, the two of them couldn't help but sigh. Killing one's own father and mother was something they couldn't imagine. If what Ao Lingxiao said was true, then Ao Lingjing was truly insane. They were only outsiders. When they heard all this, they couldn't bear it, let alone Ao Lingxiao, who had to bear it all. No wonder Ao Ling Xiao had always been alone. He didn't associate with anyone. Even his closest big brother had done such a thing. How could anyone else be trusted? If all that you say is true, he said softly. Di Beichen looked at Ao Ling Xiao. When I have the ability, I will lend you a hand. He finally understood Ao Ling Xiao's pain. No one would be able to accept such a thing, especially when he saw his own mother lying in a pool of blood. It was too cruel for him to admit that it was his elder brother who did it. Bailey Hongzhuang always felt that Lan Jingquang was insane. He was willing to kill his own brother for the position of house head. However, compared to Ao Lingxiao's brother, Lan Jingquang was much better. At least, Lan Jingquang didn't kill his own parents. Even if his grandfather didn't pass the position of house head to Lan Jingquang never thought of killing him. Not only that, Lan Jingquang didn't collude with anyone. He only wanted power. On the contrary, Ao Lingjing was insane. He would do anything to get what he wanted. This kind of person wasn't fit to be called a human. Ao Lingxiao's eyes lit up at Di Beichen's words. He looked at Di Beichen with excitement. Really? You're willing to help me? Di Beichen nodded. Yes. You believe what I said? I haven't known you for long, but I believe in your character. Di Beichen said. With Di Beichen's words, Ao Lingxiao felt as if his heart had been violently struck by something. An emotion called gratitude rose in his heart, almost causing him to cry. For the past 2 years, he had been silently enduring this pain and had never told anyone about it. This pain had been suppressed for too long. Under this pain, he simply could not be truly happy. If he didn't get his revenge, he would be like a walking corpse for the rest of his life. In fact, he also knew that if he were to ask Di Beichen for help so rashly, most people would not agree. If he were in Di Beichen's shoes, he probably would not agree either. After all, they had only known each other for a short while. There was no trust between them. However, Di Beichen actually said that he believed him. Ao Ling Xiao was willing to go through water and tread on fire for Di Beichen. It had only been 2 years, but it felt like 20 years to him. It had been a long time since he had come into contact with the Murlocs, and he had never thought that anyone would be willing to believe him. For a moment, Ao Ling Xiao was so emotional that he couldn't speak. He had secretly made up his mind. Whether Di Beichen was a member of the Di family or not, he would become friends with him. Just based on this trust, he would not let him down. Chapter 38:27. He had lived in the family for so many years. He thought that everyone would believe him. However, because of Ao Lingjing's framing, no one believed him. He could never forget that no matter how he explained, no one in the family was willing to believe him. Those people were familiar with him. However, at that moment, they didn't believe him. How sad was it that no one in the world was willing to believe him? Compared to those people whom he had always valued, Di Beichen was willing to believe him even though they had only known each other for a short time. How precious was this trust? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised that Di Beichen would agree so directly. After all, they had only heard Ao Ling Xiao's explanation. They didn't know much about this matter. However, since Di Beichen had made such a decision, she would support it. Actually, this matter is somewhat related to the Di family as well. Ao Ling Xiao slowly said. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. What's involved? Our Ao family has always been on good terms with the Di family. That's because the Di family is fair and trustworthy. In comparison, the Jun family always likes to do things that cross borders. The Di family and the Jun family have always had grievances. The Jun family always wants to hurt the D family. However, the D family is very powerful. Although the Jun family always wants to hurt the D family, they don't have any good opportunities. 2 years ago, the Jun family began to recruit small families in order to increase their strength. Although our AO family can't be compared to the D family and the Jun family, it's not a small family. If AO Ling Jing really relies on the Jun family, then once they join forces against the D family, I'm afraid this matter will be very troublesome. AO Ling Xiao looked at Di Beichun. In fact, he also felt that Di Beichun could help him regain his family. That was because as long as he took back his family, the Jun family would become his enemy. He would never allow the AO family to rely on the Jun family. However, he didn't expect that Di Beichun would agree before he could even mention this bargaining chip. This made him even more touched. In that case, isn't the D family in a lot of trouble now? Di Beichun frowned. Now that he had finally found out about his past, he did not want anything to happen to the D family. So far, I haven't heard of any changes in the D family. However, there have been many small conflicts between the Jun family and the D family since a long time ago. In fact, with the D family's background, if the Jun family really wants to touch the D family, it won't be done in a short period of time. Therefore, you don't need to be too worried right now, AO Ling Xiao said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She understood the situation that AO Ling Xiao was talking about. For such a huge monster, even if they were to fall, it wouldn't be something that could happen in a short period of time. Moreover, since the Jun family had been doing so many little things over the years, the D family would definitely know about it. They must have taken precautions. So that's how it is. Di Beichun relaxed a bit. I don't know where this upper world is. How can we go there? Before today, he had never heard of the upper world. He also didn't know where the entrance was. Chapter 38:28. The entrance to the upper realm is actually at the training grounds of the Inner Palace disciples. AO Ling Xiao said, "It's actually there?" Bailey Hongzhuang was astonished. It was hard to imagine that a place where skeletons gathered was actually the entrance to the upper realm. AO Ling Xiao nodded. That's right, it's there. Not every cultivator can enter the upper realm. Only cultivators who have reached the Star Radiance realm and above have the qualifications to enter the upper realm. Otherwise, cultivators will not be able to pass through the barrier to enter the upper realm. In fact, if a cultivator doesn't have such powerful strength, it would be very difficult for them to reach the entrance to the upper realm from the training grounds. Generally speaking, one would need to at least be at the 9th level of the morale realm to be able to reach there. Because of this, only cultivators who have reached the 9th level of the purple realm and above on Penglai Island would know about the existence of the upper realm. Otherwise, knowing about it would only be a burden to them. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun also understood. Just as AO Ling Xiao had said, if one didn't have such a powerful strength and knew that there was such a terrifying existence in the Shengxian continent, anyone would feel a bit more pressure in their heart. This wasn't a good thing. It seems that Di Beichun and I are already able to enter the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black phoenix eyes flickered with a bright light. The corner of her mouth slowly curled into a smile. It seemed that they had made the right choice to come to the Devil Training Tower. If they didn't succeed in the Devil Training Tower, it would take them a long time to break through to the Star Radiance realm. Now that they had just found out about Di Beichun's background, they already had the qualifications to enter the upper realm. This way, they could quickly head to the D family to confirm Di Beichun's identity. Di Beichun also nodded. Now that he knew his true identity, he also wanted to head to the D family to confirm it. If he was really a member of the D family, then he could be considered to have found his own identity. Not to mention, according to AO Ling Xiao, the D clan had been searching for him for so many years. It seemed that the reunion of the D clan was something worth celebrating. Now, I can only hope that Ying and Xiren will be able to successfully pass the trial. That way, their cultivations will also be able to rise to the astral boundary. Then we can head to the upper realm together. Bailey Hongzhuang was excited. Presumably, when Xiren and Shengwan Ying would be very happy after hearing the news. However, AO Ling Xiao revealed a troubled expression. I'm afraid I can't go to the upper realm for now. What? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. She was puzzled. Previously, I was heavily injured and my strength regressed too much. Now, I have yet to recover to the Starlight Realm in such a short time. A.O. Ling Xiao had a difficult look on his face. This was something he was most unwilling to face. Originally, his cultivation was much higher than A.O. Lingjing's. A.O. Lingjing also knew this point, so he intentionally drugged him, causing his cultivation to drop a lot. Now, he actually didn't even have the qualifications to return to the upper realm. Thinking about it, ever since he came to Penglai Island, he didn't see A.O. Lingjing chasing after him. He understood that this should be one of A.O. Lingjing's plans. As long as he couldn't return to the upper realm, then he would never have any hope of taking back his family. Chapter 38-29. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but stare blankly at A.O. Ling Zhao's words. They hadn't thought that there would be such a problem. After all, A.O. Ling Xiao was the former clan lord of the A.O. clan. Needless to say, he was very powerful. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been qualified for such a position. Even though he was seriously injured, they hadn't thought that A.O. Ling Zhao's cultivation would decline so much. If it wasn't for the fact that my cultivation couldn't recover and I couldn't enter the upper world, I wouldn't have stayed on Penglai Island for 2 years. I would have gone to find A.O. Lingjing to take revenge. A.O. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with resentment. A.O. Lingjing had destroyed everything. He had gone against his father's original intention and colluded with the Jun clan. He was a traitor to the clan. As long as he had the chance, he would never let A.O. Lingjing do such a thing. He had even thought that as long as he killed A.O. Lingjing, at least the clan would continue to exist. Otherwise, with the Jun clan's ambition, they might annex the A.O. clan at any time. You've been mistaken as a traitor to the clan. With your current strength, you can't get close to A.O. Lingjing. It's better not to be impulsive. It's better to cultivate properly and wait for the right opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. She could understand the anger in A.O. Ling Zhao's heart, but this was definitely not a wise move. Fortunately, A.O. Ling Zhao's strength hadn't reached the Starlight Realm. Otherwise, he would have disappeared from this world long ago. Since A.O. Lingjing could kill his father and mother, killing A.O. Ling Xiao wouldn't be a problem for him. A.O. Ling Xiao sighed. Indeed, with my current appearance, I'm no different from cripple. He couldn't help but loosen his hands. His complexion was very dejected. He wanted to take revenge for his parents. But, with his current strength, he couldn't even get close to A.O. Lingjing. For a gentleman to take revenge, 10 years is not too late. Don't be too anxious. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted. Even if A.O. Lingjing wants to rely on the Jun clan, the relationship between the Jun clan and the A.O. clan isn't good. It won't be easy for him to promote cooperation between the two. At the very least, he absolutely cannot push this matter too quickly. Otherwise, it will inevitably arouse the suspicions of the people in your family. Therefore, for a short period of time, he will know his place. You don't have to worry. Hongzhuang is right. Since your big brother wants to be the patriarch of the A.O. clan, then he will definitely be very careful in his actions. The scene that you imagine will not happen so quickly, so you still have time to change everything. I hope so. A.O. Lingxiao nodded. It was precisely because he knew this that he was able to endure until now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to restrain his temper. However, 2 years had already passed, and he still couldn't enter the upper realms gate. This feeling was driving him crazy. However, senior brother A.O. still can't enter the upper realm. What should we do? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Di Beichen. She hoped that Di Beichen could reunite with his family as soon as possible. According to A.O. Ling Xiao, breaking through to the Starlight Realm wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. If they stayed here and waited for A.O. Ling Xiao to break through, then it would be hard to say how long it would take. At this time, A.O. Ling Xiao took the lead and said, "You can go ahead first. When I recover my strength, I will go find you." Chapter 38-30. In any case, A.O. Ling Xiao wouldn't be able to take back the A.O. family in a short period of time. Di Beichen was the first to go and meet his family. This would help Ao Ling Xiao lay a good foundation when the time came. Otherwise, it would be almost impossible to help Ao Ling Xiao take back the Ao family with just a few of them. Senior brother Ao, if we go first, then you have to cultivate harder and try to recover as soon as possible, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a faint smile. Previously, they didn't know why Ao Ling Xiao approached them, so they were always on guard. Now that she knew everything, she was completely relaxed. They were closer than before, without the estrangement from before. Because of Di Beichen's promise, Ao Ling Xiao also felt relieved. At the very least, his path to taking back his family was no longer as hopeless as before. Perhaps he really would succeed one day. Thinking of this, Ao Ling Xiao's face finally showed a trace of smile. I will try my best to recover as soon as possible. Since that incident, his life's goal had been to take back the Ao family. He wouldn't let his family be deceived by Ao Ling Jing, and he wouldn't let the Jun family scheme succeed. For this, he didn't care what price he had to pay. After saying all this, Ao Ling Xiao left. In the past, because he couldn't see any hope in his cultivation, he was a little lazy. Now that he finally found a glimmer of hope, he wanted to cultivate in seclusion and increase his cultivation as soon as possible. As long as his cultivation recovered, his hope of taking back the Ao family would be closer. After all, if he wanted to deal with Ao Lingjing personally, he had to be strong enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to avenge his parents. After Ao Ling Xiao left, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. Beichen, do you believe senior brother Ao Essex's words so much? Di Beichen nodded. Although Ao Ling Xiao and I have not known each other for a long time, I also know that he is not a crazy person. Even if he really wants me to help him take back his family, there is no need for him to make up something like killing his parents. Since he said so, this matter must exist. When the time comes, we can ask around and find out. Do you think Ao Ling Xiao is the kind of person who would kill his parents? Bailey Hongzhuang heard this and shook her head. No. Bailey Hongzhuang's answer was very certain. Even if she couldn't guarantee that she was 100% accurate, she believed that Ling Xiao wasn't the kind of person who would do such a crazy thing. So, Di Beichen spread his hands. Since we all feel that he is not such a person, then the possibility that what he said is true is very high. I didn't expect Ao Ling Xiao to have experienced something like this. No wonder he is so reclusive now. If it was anyone else who had experienced something like this, their temperament would have changed. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed and shook her head. She could imagine Ao Ling Xiao's incredulous expression when he found out about this. It was really like a heavy blow, ah? Chapter 38-31. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded in agreement. After listening to Ao Ling Xiao's story, she felt that Ao Ling Jing was a very scary person. After all, there weren't many evil people in this world who could reach such a level. Not only that, but he was able to arrange all kinds of evidence so seamlessly that the entire Ao family didn't believe Ao Ling Xiao. It could be seen how meticulous he was. Ao Ling Xiao was stronger than Ao Ling Jing in terms of strength. But in terms of intelligence, Ao Ling Jing was probably not as good as Ao Ling Jing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been kept in the dark for so many years until the very last moment. Ao Ling Xiao's strength has dropped so much that even he can't accept it. That's why he's like this now. Bailey Hongzhuang's light voice carried a bit of a sigh. However, after you agreed to help him, I noticed that his eyes were blooming with spirit. His mood was completely different from before. He only became like this because he felt that he had no hope. Now that he's pulled himself together, the speed of his breakthrough should be greatly increased. Di Beichen smiled faintly. However, this matter can't be rushed. It's not something that can be done in a short period of time. Although Ao Ling Xiao spoke with certainty, they couldn't be sure that this was Di Beichen's true identity until they received confirmation from the Di family. Right now, I only hope that Ying and the others can succeed. That way, we can go to the upper realm. I really didn't expect the Shangxian continent to be divided into two continents. However, this is more in line with the Shangxian continent I knew before. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile. After so many years, I don't know if there are any families that existed 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years was a long time, but for those monsters, it wasn't impossible for them to persist for such a long time. After transmigrating for so long, she had already accepted her current identity. However, she still missed her previous life. Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression and had already guessed what she was thinking. He immediately said, "I hope the Bailey family still exists. When the time comes, I will accompany you to take a look." Of course, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't reveal her original identity. Even if she did, no one would believe her. However, he understood the feelings that Bailey Hongzhuang had for the Bailey family. As long as she could see that the Bailey family was doing well, her heart would be comforted. Listening to Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's face could not help but soften a little, and her eyes became distant and deep. If it is really still there, then it would be good. Back then, when she accidentally transmigrated, she didn't give any instructions or make any arrangements. This has always been a regret in her heart. If the Bailey family can't be passed down well because of her departure, then she will be the center of the Bailey family. Seeing the hope in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Di Baichen couldn't help but hold her hand. His voice was low but full of strength. "Yes, they will definitely be here." When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen returned to the challenge area, Mo Yunjue was still standing alone outside the challenge area. Chapter 38-32. He's busy cultivating in seclusion. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Mo Yunjue nodded, but the surprise in his eyes did not dissipate. So that's how it is. He has been cultivating very hard recently. Now that our cultivation has reached the Starlight Realm, he naturally has the pressure. If he doesn't cultivate hard, it will be difficult for him to catch up with us. While speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and winked at Di Baichen. Ao Lingxiao actually only told him about this matter. Presumably, he didn't want others to know about it. Since Ao Lingxiao didn't want to say it, they naturally wouldn't say it. Moreover, Di Baichen's identity had not been confirmed yet. It was too early to say all this. "Master, as long as Ying and the others pass smoothly, we can return to Penglai Palace in 3 days, right?" Xiao He ran out of the chaos ring. When Ao Lingxiao spoke before, they also heard it clearly. It really wanted to see where the entrance to the upper realm was. It had only been 1,000 years. They didn't expect the situation in Shangxian continent to have changed so much. It was really beyond their expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "That's right. As long as Ying and the others pass smoothly, our goal in Penglai Palace has been achieved. We can go back directly." "That's great." Xiao He jumped and clapped. "But after we go back, our first task is to deal with Chu Yunyao." Xiao He was very unhappy with this guy. There were many cultivators on Penglai Island who made it unhappy, but there was only one person who could make it feel disgusted like Chu Yunyao. When it thought of how Chu Yunyao looked down on its master, it wanted to teach this guy a lesson. He really looked down on people. Seeing Xiao He mention Chu Yunyao, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. After we go back this time, Chu Yunyao will definitely not be our opponent. At that time, we will naturally take revenge. As for Chu Yunyao, Bailey Hongzhuang was also extremely disgusted. If Chu Yunyao had done all this for her, it would not have been like this. However, Chu Yunyao had involved Shangwan Ying in it and let her suffer such torture, which was the most unbearable thing for her. The reason why Shangwan Ying had suffered such a serious injury was all because of her. If she couldn't avenge Shangwan Ying, she would never be able to vent her anger. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Baichen couldn't help but smile. "In my opinion, you don't even need to do anything. Ying and Xiren won't let her off so easily." If Xiren's strength had also reached the Star Radiance realm, then he believed that the first thing when Xiren would do after returning was to kill Chu Yunyao. Because Shangwan Ying's position in his heart was irreplaceable, Chu Yunyao's actions at that time had already touched Xiren's reverse scale, so he would definitely make a move. This was his understanding of his brother. Bailey Hongzhuang also understood that compared to her, Xiren definitely hated Chu Yunyao more. But since Xiren wants to make a move, then I will not come forward. This matter will be handed over to him, okay? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Thinking about it, the situation was like this. Chapter 38-33. After Shangwan Yingying and when Xiren entered the room, many cultivators in the demon training tower paid close attention to the two of them. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had succeeded in succession, everyone was very envious. Now that Shangwan Yingying and when Xiren had also entered the room, they were very curious as to whether the two of them would succeed. If the two of them also succeeded, then the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang and her team would really be too abnormal. They were clearly only in their 20s, yet they all had such strength. How could it not be amazing? Everyone was even certain that once when Xiren and her team succeeded, then Bailey Hongzhuang and her team would definitely become the most terrifying team on Penglai Island. From what I see, not all of them will succeed. Didn't the cultivator who came with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also fail? The cultivator that everyone was talking about was naturally A.O. Ling Xiao. A.O. Ling Xiao had not appeared with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others many times before, but he was still noticed by many people. Therefore, when A.O. Ling Xiao was about to enter the room, everyone also paid attention to him. When they saw that he had failed, everyone let out a sigh of relief, finally giving them some comfort. That man doesn't seem to be very close to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. They rarely appear together, and we haven't seen them for a few days. However, when Xiren and when Xinya are different, they have always been together. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two sat on the ground, closed their eyes, and began to cultivate, directly blocking out the noise around them. Although everything they saw when they were breaking through the room was an illusion, Bailey Hongzhuang was very happy. Her demon summoning scripture had indeed evolved and was not an illusion. Following the evolution of the demon summoning scripture, her cultivation speed had also increased. It was really something to be happy about. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating, Baisher's surprised voice suddenly rang in her ears. "Master, let me tell you some good news." Baisher's voice was filled with excitement and agitation. It was as if he could not wait to tell her the news. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, a trace of surprise in her eyes as she asked, "What good news?" "A new stone room has finally been opened in the Chaos Ring." Hearing Baisher's words, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be taken aback. Her pitch-black, beautiful eyes immediately surged with surprise. "Are you telling the truth?" White Lion nodded. "It's true. I only just discovered it. Just now, it was bored and strolled around the Chaos Ring a few times. However, when it was strolling around, it suddenly discovered that there was an additional door. After taking a closer look, it discovered that a new stone room had been opened in the Chaos Ring. Once it had realized this, it had immediately come to tell Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, the appearance of a new door was a great help to Bailey Hongzhuang. "That's great." Bailey Hongzhuang was overjoyed. It had been a long time since a new door had been opened in the Chaos Ring. Chapter 38-34. When she thought of this, Bailey Hongzhuang almost wanted to immediately enter the Chaos Ring to take a look. Unfortunately, there were too many cultivators outside the challenge room, so it was not convenient for her to check. The three beasties were also extremely excited in the Chaos Ring. They were all guessing what would appear in the new stone room this time. Now that Master had already mastered many things, what would appear in the new stone room that would be beneficial to Master? "Master, do you want to come over and take a look now?" Xiao Hei could not help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment before shaking her head. "Forget it. I'll go in and take a look after Yingying and the others are done." Since the door to the stone room was already open, there was no need to rush. She had run back several times, so others would not know what had happened. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the three beasties understood what she was thinking. They immediately said, "Then we'll wait for Master to come back before going in to take a look." "Good." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile as she said in a gentle voice. Di Beichen also noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang was mumbling something. It was obvious that she was communicating with the three beasties. He could not help but chuckle. "Wife, what are you mumbling to Xiao Hei and the others about?" "I'm not telling you." Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be mysterious as she blinked and stuck out her tongue playfully. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's lively and playful appearance, Di Beichen's eyes couldn't help but deepen a bit, and his heart softened. His wife was very charming no matter how he looked at her. She was different and had a different style. To him, no matter how he looked at her, he would never get tired of looking at her. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two waited outside the challenge room, just like that. As time gradually passed, the joy in their hearts grew stronger. As long as Xiren and Wen Xinya were still in the breakthrough room, they would continue to challenge the breakthrough. As long as they persisted for one more day, they would have passed one more breakthrough. As long as they did not come out, it meant that they had a high chance of passing the breakthrough. After Long Yanwei and Yizihua found out that Xiren and Wen Xinya had started to challenge the level, they had nothing better to do, so they came to the challenge area to take a look. Later on, they simply waited outside with Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two, waiting for Wen Xinya to come out. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were extremely surprised and amused at the same time. Long Yanwei and Yizihua really didn't put on any airs in front of them. Bailey Hongzhuang, during this period of time, Penglai Palace has produced a lot of healing medicine. Now, in addition to supplying Penglai Palace's disciples, it has also gradually begun to be sold outside. Long Yanwei saw Bailey Hongzhuang. During this period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang had not been in Penglai Palace. Presumably, she didn't know much about this matter. Has it already begun to be sold outside? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. She didn't expect Penglai Palace to be so fast. Long Yanwei nodded. The first batch of healing medicine was first supplied to Penglai Palace's disciples. It wasn't until there was a surplus of healing medicine that it began to be sold outside. In fact, if it wasn't to be more certain of the effect of this healing medicine, Penglai Palace would have sold it outside even faster. After all, the number of people in Penglai Palace was far from what ordinary forces could compare to. Once it was put into production, the speed was naturally not slow. Chapter 38-35. According to Bailey Hongzhuang's judgment, although she had already handed over the prescription to Penglai Palace must first verify the effect of this healing medicine. What's more, the number of cultivators in Penglai Palace was not small. Even if the healing medicine was made, they must provide it to the disciples in the palace as soon as possible. It would take some time to sell it to the outside. Now it seemed that Penglai Palace really had a lot of people, and their speed was so fast. Now, this healing medicine has only just begun to be sold. I'm afraid it will take some time for it to be accepted by everyone. However, according to the effect that we have verified, I believe that it will not be long before this healing medicine will be accepted by everyone. Long Yanwei's face was filled with a shallow smile. Even though he already knew that the effect of this healing medicine was very outstanding, according to the information provided by the cultivators in the palace, the effect of this healing medicine was still outstanding and beyond everyone's expectations. If Bailey Hongzhuang had not become a disciple of Penglai Palace, her medical skills alone would be enough to become a master of Penglai Island. Speaking of which, their Penglai Palace still had an advantage in this matter. Therefore, Long Yanwei also remembered Bailey Hongzhuang's friendship in his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. It just took a few more days. I believe that Penglai Palace's business will be very good in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang had always been very confident about the effect of her healing medicine. After the first batch of healing medicine is sold, I think you will become a rich woman. Yizihua smiled and joked. As soon as this was said, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue could not help but laugh. 20% of the entire sect's healing medicine sales belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang. This profit was indeed not small. Yes, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Then I hope that Penglai Palace's sales will get better and better. In this way, I will also be a rich person in the future. Long Yanwei's lips curled into a smile. In fact, they all knew very well that with Bailey Hongzhuang's ability, if she wanted money, it was absolutely easy. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang and others were talking and laughing, suddenly, a movement attracted their attention. For a moment, everyone's eyes looked at the breakthrough room because they clearly noticed that the movement came from the breakthrough room. Bailey Hongzhuang and others also frowned. At this moment, It was not even 3 days, and there was movement in the breakthrough room. Could it be that there was a problem? Just as they hesitated, the door of the breakthrough room suddenly opened. Shangguan Yingying slowly walked out of the breakthrough room. She looked like she had lost her soul, and her eyes were filled with dejection. Seeing Shangguan Yingying to Yingying, Shangguan Yingying Xingying, are you okay? Shangguan Yingying to Yinjing's to Shangguan Yingying's Hongzhuang. Shangguan Yingying's was pale as. Shangguan Yingying glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang, as if she had suddenly found her pillar of support. She tightly grasped Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. The corners of her eyes were still filled with tears. Hongzhuang, I'm fine. She shook her head. Originally, she did not understand the difficulty of the breakthrough that everyone was talking about. She did not understand why everyone looked like they had lost their souls after coming out. It was not until she experienced it that she realized how difficult it was. This kind of scene was really difficult to bear. At the same time, she also understood how difficult it was for Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two to persevere. Chapter 38-36. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Shangguan Yingying worriedly. Although she said she was fine, her expression clearly said that she was not. Bailey Hongzhuang helped Shangguan Yingying to sit down at the side. She sighed in her heart. The inheritance of the demon training tower attacked one's heart. If one's mind was not firm enough, it was very easy to be confused or even injured. In fact, before she started the challenge, even she herself didn't know that she would have these problems. Therefore, even if everyone thought that they had no problems, they would only realize that they weren't as powerful as they thought they were after entering the trial. She was actually a little worried about Shangguan Yingying, because Shangguan Yingying was different from cultivators like them who had always been wandering outside. Her cultivation path had always been very smooth. Since young, she was the pearl of the Cloud Sword sect. No one dared to bully her. Although she had made great progress now, there were still many problems that she could not control. There was still a certain distance to completely overcome. Before this, Bailey Hongzhuang had guessed that Shangguan Yingying might encounter a test. Just the second test of the mountain of corpses and sea of blood was probably unbearable for her, because it was really too lonely. Even Bailey Hongzhuang herself had felt lost and lonely in that blood-red world. Shangguan Yingying had never come into contact with such a thing. She probably could not accept it just by noticing the shocking scene, let alone having to stay in there for such a long time. Yingying, are you all right? Di Beichun asked with concern. Shangguan Yingying sat down and drank some water. Only then did her spirit recover a little. She nodded, but her expression was still filled with frustration and helplessness. I'm already fine. It's just that I failed this test. Bailey Hongzhuang held Shangguan Yingying's hand. It's no big deal if you fail. There will be chances in the future. The content of this test is really too abnormal. I didn't think so before, but after experiencing it, I only feel that it's really terrifying. Shangguan Yingying sighed. Seeing Shangguan Yingying quickly recover her previous vitality, Izihua could not help but chuckle. No one has obtained the inheritance of the demon training tower for over 100 years. You have to get rid of the demon in your heart. This is already very abnormal. It's no big deal if you fail. I failed too. Shangguan Yingying smiled at Izihua and said, Instructor E, are you comforting me with your own experience? Of course. Izihua looked at Shangguan Yingying helplessly. If you weren't so depressed, I wouldn't have told you about my shameful past. It is precisely because of the difficulty of this trial that the inheritance of the demon refining tower is so precious. That is why the inheritor has such an extraordinary weight. Long Yanwei looked at Shangguan Yingying. Actually, it's not a big deal if you can't get rid of the inner demons. There are too many people in this world who can't get rid of it. However, cultivators who could break through the demonic barrier would definitely be able to go further. This was because they had the heart of a fearless powerhouse. Really, Shangguan Yingying looked at Long Yanwei expectantly. She saw that everyone had succeeded, so she also hoped that she could succeed. Now that she had failed, it was a huge blow to her. Chapter 38-37. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Shangguan Yingying with a faint smile in her eyes. She had been a little sad when she saw that Shangguan Ying had failed, but now she found it very interesting when she saw Shangguan Ying's innocent look. At their level, it was rare to see someone as simple-minded as Shangguan Ying. It was very rare. Lord Long, Instructor E, thank you. Shangguan Ying's eyes were filled with gratitude. She was not stupid and naturally knew that Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua were comforting her. When she had first found out that she had failed, she had indeed been very sad. However, after hearing everyone's comforting words, she felt much better. Everyone wanted to succeed, but there were very few who had actually succeeded. Furthermore, she knew very well that there was a large gap between her and Hong Zhuang. Such an outcome was not unexpected. However, when all of this had really happened, she still felt a little sad in her heart. Seeing that Shangguan Ying had returned to normal so quickly, Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua could not help but smile faintly. When they had first met Shangguan Ying, they had already known that this girl's thoughts were extremely pure. At their level, it was very rare to see someone with such a pure mind. Thinking about it, she must have grown up under everyone's protection. Now that they had interacted with each other, they felt that it was very rare. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. It won't be too late to try again when you feel that you can break through that evil barrier. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted Shangguan Ying. One failure was nothing. There would be many opportunities in the future. Shangguan Ying nodded slightly. I will work hard. I hope that I can succeed next time. However, this illusion is just too realistic. When I first entered, I thought that it was just an illusion and that there was nothing to be afraid of. However, after entering, I found that everything was out of my control. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed in her heart. She had also experienced this point. This was the power of the devil training pagoda. If not for this, how could she have been bewitched with her intelligence? Indeed, there is no use in believing that this is an illusion. You must really overcome it. Otherwise, the illusion will use countless methods to make you believe that everything is real. This kind of challenge is too perverse. Shangguan Ying muttered with a sigh. Even though she had already come out of the illusion, she still shuddered when she recalled the scenes that had happened before. Master, Ying has failed. What should we do? Xiao Hei's eyes were filled with helplessness. Now that they had finally found out about Di Beichen's origins, both Master and Di Beichen wanted to go to the Di family in the upper realm as soon as possible. However, in order to ascend to the upper realm, one had to be at the Starlight Realm. However, Shangguan Ying had failed to ascend to the upper realm. With her current cultivation at the 7th level of the Purple Realm, it would take her quite some time to reach the Starlight Realm. If I want to go with them, I'm afraid I'll have to wait on Penglai Island for a while. Xiaobai sighed. Originally, Shangguan Ying's failure was not a big deal, but now that she was involved in this matter, it was very troublesome. White Lion nodded. But Di Beichen hasn't seen his family for more than 20 years. Are we going to continue waiting? Chapter 38:38. Hearing the discussion of the three beasties, Bailey Hongzhuang's mood was very complicated. She only hoped that Ying and Di Beichen would succeed. This way, they would definitely become cultivators of the Starlight Realm. Unfortunately, Ying had already failed. No matter if Xiren succeeded or not, he would definitely be with Ying. Then what should she and Beichen do? Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang subconsciously glanced at Di Beichen. With Beichen's personality, he would definitely insist on staying and wait for Ying and Di Beichen to set off together. Perhaps Xiao Bai was right. Since they had already waited for so many years, waiting a little longer would not be a problem. After all, Xiren and Di Beichen did not want the two of them to be alone on Penglai Island. Therefore, they definitely could not abandon Xiren and Di Beichen. Fortunately, Xiren is still persevering. Hopefully, Xiren will succeed. Shangguan Ying looked hopefully at the door of the breakthrough room, which was still tightly shut, when Xiren was currently inside. She had already failed. Xiren still had hope. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but look at the tightly closed door of the room. They only hoped that when Xiren would be able to persevere. Seeing this scene, Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua also felt a little emotional. Thinking back, they had also come here to try, but they did not succeed. Talking about this point, they could not compare to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. The surrounding cultivators had already known that there was no technique in this room when they saw Shangguan Yingying come out. Otherwise, with the experience of the three people, Shangguan Yingying would not have failed. After a few more hours, a series of noises suddenly came from the breakthrough room again. Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. If they didn't hear wrongly, this voice seemed to come from the room where Ziren was. Everyone couldn't help but frown when they heard the voice. It wasn't time yet. Could it be that Ziren also failed? Shangguan Yingying's expression was somewhat complicated. She knew how much Ziren cared about this challenge. In order to succeed, Ziren had worked extremely hard. Back then, when he failed to pass the blood refining tower, he had always remembered it in his heart. Therefore, he had always placed all his hopes on the demon refining tower. He only hoped that he could succeed this time. If Ziren were to fail again this time, the blow he would receive would definitely be greater than hers. This was definitely not a situation she wanted to see. However, no matter how unwilling Shangguan Yingying was, it still happened. The door to the room opened and Ziren's figure slowly appeared in everyone's sight. Seeing this, Shangguan Yingying immediately ran over. Her face was filled with worry and concern. She said, "Ziren, how are you?" When Ziren looked at Shangguan Yingying beside him, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. "Yingying? Yes, I'm here." Shangguan Yingying nodded. Ziren's expression changed a little. He understood that Yingying had also failed. It seemed that he had underestimated the difficulty of this test. No wonder so many cultivators had failed. It was simply too difficult. It seemed that Di Beichun, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Mo Yunjue were really three geniuses. Chapter 38-39. After seeing that Ziren had also come out, Long Yanwei and Hua exchanged glances. In fact, they were also very curious about the results of Ziren and Shangguan Yingying. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two's performance was too outstanding. If when Ziren and Shangguan Yingying could also do this, then they really couldn't help but sigh at the emergence of geniuses in batches. When did the cultivators of the outside world become so outstanding? Now it seemed that this wasn't the emergence of a batch of geniuses. It was just the appearance of a few extremely outstanding young people. "Ziren, are you okay?" Di Beichun looked at Ziren, his handsome eyes filled with concern. After experiencing all this, he understood this feeling. After entering the challenge room, they would see the scene that they didn't want to see the most. Even if they knew that everything was fake after coming out, they would still feel very uncomfortable in their hearts. Ziren waved his hand. His mental state was clearly much better than when Shangguan Yingying first came out, but that trace of depression and sadness could not be concealed. He grew up with Di Beichun since he was young, but he had never been able to beat Di Beichun in so many years. Although he had long been used to it, this failure still made him feel a little uncomfortable. "I'm fine. I'm just a little sad that I didn't succeed." Looking at Ziren's depressed appearance, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but say, "Ziren, one failure is no big deal. Life is full of opportunities. Just because you didn't succeed this time doesn't mean that you won't succeed next time. I'm with you. Next time, we'll try again together." Seeing that Shangguan Yingying used the comforting method that everyone used to comfort her so quickly, everyone felt that it was very funny. This Shangguan Yingying was really heartless. Not long ago, she was so depressed, but now she seemed to be completely fine. She wasn't affected at all. Ziren turned around and saw Shangguan Yingying's worried look. He immediately pulled himself together. No matter what, he didn't want Shangguan Yingying to worry about him. "Yingying, you don't have to worry about me. I'm fine. I can still take this little blow." Hearing this, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but smile. "Ziren, I knew you would definitely pull yourself together." "Of course." Ziren raised his eyebrows. "It's just a blow. It's nothing." Shangguan Yingying also smiled. "Let's try it together next time." "Alright." Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were originally very worried that Shangguan Yingying would not be able to take the blow. However, judging from their current situation, it seemed that they did not need any consolation at all. The two of them had completely recovered by themselves. Ying is really Xiren's medicine. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Di Beichen next to her. She had noticed that Xiren's expression was very strange when he came out. Although Shangguan Ying's expression was much better than Xiren's when she came out, she could see that Xiren had suffered a heavier blow than her. But now, with just a few words from Shangguan Ying, when Xiren had already recovered, this kind of recovery was not an act, but a real one. This was not an ordinary kind of power. Chapter 3840. Di Beichen had known Xiren for so many years and knew his character very well. Although he would feel disappointed if he failed the challenge, he was never one to give up easily. He would quickly pull himself together again. Furthermore, Shangguan Ying was by his side. In front of the woman he loved the most, he would never allow himself to be dispirited. Hence, it was within his expectations that he would pull himself together so quickly. After all, the challenge of the Devil Training Tower was not that easy to pass. So many people present had not been able to pass the challenge, so his failure naturally did not count as much. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but soften. The relationship between the two of them is indeed very good. Although Xiren and Shangguan Ying had always bickered with each other, after this period of interaction, he knew very well just how deep the relationship between the two of them was. This kind of love that they had for each other since they were young had seeped into every detail of their lives. At this moment, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and could not help but frown. Could it be that my wife feels that our relationship is not good enough, or that my performance at night was not good enough? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. After understanding the meaning behind Di Beichen's words, her cheeks quickly flushed red. She glared angrily at Di Beichen. "What nonsense are you spouting?" Di Beichen chuckled. "My wife is not dissatisfied. Then I'm relieved." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen's devilish smile and felt a wave of helplessness in her heart. She could only be bullied by this guy in terms of words. It seems that there's no technique involved in this challenge. Otherwise, when Xiren and Shangguan Ying would not have failed. That may not be the case. Perhaps they did not really tell Xiren and Shangguan Ying the technique. If that's the case, then even if we find a way to ask them, they won't tell us. The cultivators present sighed one after another. They had originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had the skills to clear the stage and had only wanted to ask them for advice. However, judging from the current situation, it was clear that the situation was not as simple as they thought. Killing Qi Field, that was an extremely powerful inheritance. Once one obtained it, one's strength would definitely be different from before. Moreover, the rewards after passing this trial were also extremely shocking. In the past, it was fine if no one succeeded, but now that someone had succeeded and they didn't know how to do it, they were naturally very depressed. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest stood where they were, feeling the gazes of the crowd. They frowned as they listened to the discussions. "Let's go back first," Bailey Hongzhuang said. "All right." When Xiren nodded, "There were so many people here that it was not a good place to talk. Then we'll go back first. If you decide when to return to Penglai Palace, let us know and we'll go back together," Long Yanwei said slowly. According to his plan, they would be able to leave after when Xiren and Shangguan Ying had finished clearing the stage. However, since they had not succeeded in clearing the stage, when Xiren and Shangguan Ying would probably need some time to recover their emotions, they might as well not disturb them. Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded. "All right." After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other four left, Mo Yunjue did not stay for long. Instead, he returned to the cultivation area to cultivate. Chapter 3841. I didn't expect both of us to fail. How depressing, when Xiren couldn't help but sigh as soon as he entered the room. His expression was full of helplessness. Previously, in front of others, he still had some scruples. Now that there was only Di Beichen and Shangguan Ying, there was naturally no need to hide anything. "It's okay. Won't there be another chance in the future? Who knows, we might succeed next time," Di Beichen said. When Xiren shrugged helplessly. Although that's the case, this kind of demonic barrier isn't something that can be easily broken. If we can't break it now, we might not be able to break it in 10 or 20 years, or even in this lifetime. The inner demon barrier was only related to one state of mind. It had nothing to do with age or strength. Perhaps as they grew older and stronger, their obsession would become stronger and stronger. It would be even more difficult to break the inner demon barrier. If that wasn't the case, it wouldn't have remained unsolved for so many years. This proved that if everyone failed the first time, no matter how many times they tried, they still couldn't break it. What's more, seeing the scene that he didn't want to see the most wasn't a good feeling. Don't worry. Take it slow. Maybe you'll be able to figure it out one day. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted gently. This kind of thing really couldn't be rushed. Only when one's state of mind reached a certain level could they break it. The more anxious they were, the more obsessed they were, and the less likely it was to succeed. That's right. Anyway, we're still young. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Why rush? Shang Guanying looked at Xiren, and her eyes suddenly softened. In my heart, you've always been the best. Even if you can't break through the inner demon barrier, what's so great about that? Hearing Shang Guanying's words, Xiren couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at the former in astonishment and even wondered if he had heard wrongly. In the next second, when Xiren suddenly rushed in front of Shang Guanying, he excitedly held Shang Guanying's hand, and his eyes flashed with disbelief. Ying, did you just say that I'm the best in your heart? Looking at Xiren's excited appearance, Shang Guanying's expression was a little stiff and even a little shy. Compared to such warm words of praise, she felt more comfortable scolding him on a daily basis. However, thinking about how Xiren had suffered a huge blow today, Shang Guanying nodded and said, "That's right." After receiving Shang Guanying's confirmation again, Xiren couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Ying, I've been with you for so long, and this is the first time you've spoken the truth. As soon as these words came out, Shang Guanying, Di Beichun, and Bailey Hongzhuang were all stunned. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such a shameless person. Shang Guanying suddenly felt that there was no need for her to comfort him. She rolled her eyes and said, "I was just lying to comfort you." However, Xiren didn't care at all. He smiled and shrugged. Ying, you've already spoken the truth. I know everything you're saying now is just because you're shy. I understand. Shang Guanying looked at Xiren speechlessly. Her face was full of anger, but deep in her eyes, there was a deep smile. Chapter 3842. Inside the room. Di Beichun, what are your plans now? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun. Originally, after talking with A.O. Ling Xiao, they had already made a decision. However, the current situation was slightly different from what they had expected. Di Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and immediately understood what she meant. He said, since Xiren and Ying have not successfully broken through to the Starlight Realm, then we can only wait here for them to break through before we go. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She had already guessed that Di Beichun would make such a decision. Therefore, she did not find it strange. Then we will wait here for a while. Bailey Hongzhuang replied. You think so too? Di Beichun raised his eyebrows. Clearly, he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to agree without saying anything. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and leaned on Di Beichun's shoulder. Her voice was gentle and pleasant. No matter what decision you make, I will support you. Actually, I have the same thoughts as you. Long ago, I had already guessed your decision. You have always been a righteous person. Xiren and Ying have done so much for us. Naturally, we cannot abandon them and leave. Di Beichun nodded slightly and reached out to play with Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and boneless hand. No one knows me better than Hongzhuang. Since so many years have passed since my birth, there is no need to be anxious. Now that I have some clues from A.O. Ling Xiao, although I feel that the possibility is very high, it is not necessarily so. After all, the world is so big and there are so many strange things. Anything can happen by coincidence. Di Beichun's deep eyes were calm. So many years had passed, and he had seen a lot of things about his own life. It would be good if he could find his birth parents. However, if he could not, it would not become his regret. Now that he knew, it was just a matter of waiting a few days to meet them. It did not affect anything. On the contrary, Xiren was his brother for more than 20 years. Naturally, he would not ignore him. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. You are right. Actually, whether it is Xiren or Yingying, their cultivation talent is very powerful. I think it will not take them too long to reach the Starlight Realm. That's right. In this way, we can also wait until Ao Lingxiao reaches the Starlight Realm. Then we can go to the Upper Realm together. Di Beichun smiled faintly. We don't know anything about that place. It's good to have one more acquaintance. If we have nothing to do tomorrow, let's return to Penglai Palace. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes became deep. We have been here for several months. It is time to go back and settle the score with Penglai Palace. Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other, their eyes filled with joy. That was then, and this is now. Compared to the situation when they first arrived, their strength had greatly improved. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others packed their bags and set off to return to Penglai Palace. Long Yanwei and Yizihua walked in front, while the five of them followed behind. Steward Qin also came to send them off after knowing that they were leaving. Come back to me when you have time in the future. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded. Of course. Master Long, Minter, you must come back to my place as a guest next time. Chapter 3843. Steward Qin looked at the two of them with envy and helplessness in his heart. Speaking of which, it was he who first met Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. It was also he who first discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang had such powerful medical skills. It was a pity that he failed to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang. Instead, he let Penglai Palace take advantage of it. Penglai Palace was the #1 force on Penglai Island. It was obviously impossible for him to compete with Penglai Palace. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two obtained the inheritance in the Demon Refining Tower. As a result, even Mo Yunju had joined Penglai Palace. In comparison, Penglai Palace was the one with the most face. As the steward of the Demon Refining Tower, his heart was naturally very bitter. He didn't grasp the great opportunity. What a pity! It was really a pity. Thinking of this, Steward Qin couldn't help but think of the Golden Flame auction house. If the auction house wasn't unwilling to sell the Tears of Cold Flame to him, then it wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. However, he missed it. Now, even if he wanted to recruit them, there was no hope. After all, Penglai Palace could afford the conditions that he could give to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. What's more, Penglai Palace still had Master Long. It was because of him that Penglai Palace was able to recruit many outstanding talents that other forces couldn't recruit. After bidding farewell to Steward Qin, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others set off on their return journey. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to Penglai Palace, Chu Yunyao and her sister also received the news immediately. During this period of time, they've been very concerned about the movements of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. After all, after the last incident, they all knew very well that once Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came over, there would inevitably be a fight between them. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have returned. Chu Yunshang looked at Chu Yunyao and said slowly. Chu Yunyao nodded. So be it. What's the big deal? Looking at Chu Yunyao's indifferent look, Chu Yunshang couldn't help but frown. It is said that in addition to Bailey Hongzhuang, the cultivator who obtained the inheritance of the Demon Refining Tower is also their friend. This time, Master Long and Minter personally went to the Demon Refining Tower to recruit him. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang's team will be even stronger. If they take the initiative to provoke us, I will deal with them with you. If they don't come looking for trouble, don't take the initiative to look for trouble, and don't go out by yourself. We have to find an opportunity to completely solve this problem. Chu Yunshang's face was a little dignified. Since knowing this news, she only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang and others were really formidable. These fellows had only been in the Penglai Palace for a short period of time. It seemed that every once in a while, the strength of their team would increase a little. Moreover, the speed of their improvement was very terrifying. It seemed that as long as they were not careful, their strength would quietly surpass them. This is the Penglai Palace. I don't believe that they would dare to take the initiative to provoke me after only leaving for a few months. Chu Yunyao still didn't care. In her opinion, Chu Yunshang was completely timid. Even a few guys who had just become inner disciples were afraid of her. It was a waste of her strength. Don't be self-righteous anymore. If you lose your life because of this, I'll see what you can do. Chapter 38:44. Sister, I really don't understand. Why is it that the stronger you are now, the more timid you become? Chu Yunyao said with a chagrined expression. Isn't this all because of you? If I wasn't worried about you, why would I care about this? Chu Yunshang rolled her eyes, feeling that Chu Yunyao was really insensible. You should restrain your temper for the time being. If nothing unexpected happens, I will be able to successfully break through to the star realm in these days. After I break through to the star realm, we will find a way to deal with them. Hearing this, although Chu Yunyao was unwilling, she could only agree. All right. In fact, in her opinion, there was no need for Chu Yunshang to take action. She alone was enough. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was only at the 6th level of the Purple Realm at that time. Even if a few months had passed, how much could Bailey Hongzhuang's strength have improved? In the end, it was just that Chu Yunshang was too nervous. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had just returned to Penglai Palace when Ren Ziheng and some others rushed over. After seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were safe and sound, they could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, you are all right. We were really worried to death before. Ren Zimei could not help but sigh. Since that incident, we have not seen any trace of you. If we did not receive the note you sent back, we would have thought, since Shangguan Yingying's accident, they knew in their hearts that it was Chu Yunyao's doing. Unfortunately, they could not find any evidence and did not know what to do. Later, Di Beichen and Wen Ziren went out to look for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. They could not help much and were extremely nervous. Until now, they did not know how Bailey Hongzhuang and the others escaped from Chu Yunyao's hands. Fortunately, there were no problems in the end. Fortunately, you came back safe and sound, so we can rest assured. Ren Ziheng smiled faintly. Recently, you have really been the limelight. I really did not expect you to be so powerful. You even succeeded in breaking through the demon training tower. We were just lucky, that's all. Di Bei Chun smiled. Chu Jinfeng waved his hand. If you were to be humble and say that you were lucky in other matters, then that would be fine. However, I have personally experienced the demon training tower's test. That kind of abnormal degree is simply impossible for ordinary people to pass. The fact that you were able to pass proves that you are also abnormal. Hearing Chu Jinfeng's words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. Senior Chu, are you praising us? Or are they indirectly scolding us? Chu Jinfeng chuckled. Actually, this is also considered a compliment. Because this inheritance is truly sick, it means that you guys are very strong. Jinfeng is right. Ren Zimei nodded. This inheritance hasn't appeared for over 100 years. You guys actually managed to obtain it. It's really an eye-opener. However, after hearing Ren Zimei's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not pay attention to what she said. Hey. Ziren moved closer to Ren Zimei, his eyes full of ridicule. What did I just hear? What? Ren Zimei looked at Ziren suspiciously, her eyes filled with confusion. You just called Senior Chu Jinfeng? Did I hear wrongly? Chapter 38:45. Looking at Ren Zimei's appearance, everyone was even more certain that there was something going on between her and Chu Jinfeng. In the next moment, everyone's gaze fell on Chu Jinfeng. Wen Ziren even asked, Senior Chu, is there a situation? Compared to Ren Zimei's reserved shyness, Chu Jinfeng was much more generous. He raised his eyebrows proudly. Of course, your senior sister Ren is now mine. As soon as these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all widened their eyes. Although they had already expected such a result, Chu Jinfeng's words were very bold and unrestrained. After hearing these words, Ren Zimei's face was so red that it almost dripped blood. She immediately pushed Chu Jinfeng and said, What nonsense are you talking about? How am I talking nonsense? Chu Jinfeng's expression became serious. Zimei, I have liked you for many years. Now that you have finally accepted my feelings, I can't wait for the whole world to know. Ren Zimei, who was originally extremely embarrassed, heard Chu Jinfeng's serious confession, and the affection between her eyebrows became even stronger. The corners of her lips gradually rose into a smile. She had always known about Chu Jinfeng's feelings for her, but as she became stronger and stronger, her courage to give her true feelings became smaller and smaller. It was precisely because of this that she had never accepted him. It was not until she met Bailey Hongzhuang and the others that she saw them supporting each other that she felt that it was very beautiful and she yearned for it. It turned out that there were still such sincere feelings. Not everyone only valued their own interests. She also hoped that she could find her other half who treated her with such sincerity, especially after Shangwan Yingying's disappearance. When she saw the anger and heartache on Xiren's face, her emotions became even stronger. Under the influence of such emotions, she gradually decided to accept Chu Jinfeng. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Chu Jinfeng and Ren Zimei, whose eyes were full of affection, and the smile in her eyes deepened. To be able to see that these two lovers had finally gotten married, they were also sincerely happy. Senior brother Ren, did Chu Yunyao come to find trouble with you while we were away? Di Beichen's eyes darkened slightly as he asked. Ren Ziheng waved his hand. Although Chu Yunyao likes to stir up trouble, since your incident, Chu Yunshang seems to have restrained her a lot, so she didn't come to find trouble. In addition to the bounty issued by the Devil Training Pagoda, many cultivators want to take Chu Yunyao's head, so she doesn't dare to come out easily. During this period of time, she hasn't even left her house, and she doesn't even dare to go to the training grounds. At this point, Ren Ziheng couldn't help but admire Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Logically speaking, with Chu Yunyao's strength, it should be very easy to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and others. However, the situation was completely opposite. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were just newcomers who had just come to Penglai Island for less than a year, but they forced Chu Yunyao to a situation where she didn't even dare to go out. This was really not an ordinary situation. How do you know that Chu Yunshang restrained her? Shangwan Yingying asked curiously. Chapter 3846. So that's how it is. Shangwan Ying immediately understood. I saw that Chu Yunyao's lawless appearance, so there is still someone who can control her. Speaking of which, we still don't quite understand why you were taken away by Chu Yunyao. Ren Zimei couldn't help but say, if it was to take Hongzhuang, then I can understand, but to take you away for a Yunling fruit, I can't understand. Hearing this, Shangwan Yingying raised her eyebrows. Why is it understandable that she took Hongzhuang? Because Duan Huali likes Hongzhuang, but any woman who is liked by Duan Huali, Chu Yunyao will always dislike her. You guessed right. Shangwan Yingying gave Ren Zimei a thumbs up. In fact, Chu Yunyao's original intention was to deal with Hongzhuang, but that afternoon, Hongzhuang happened to be in seclusion, so I was the only one who went there. No wonder. Ren Zimei and Ren Ziheng looked at each other and immediately understood what was going on. Previously, they felt that there was something fishy about this matter. Chu Yunyao was famous for causing trouble in Penglai Palace, but she only targeted women, and these women all had one thing in common, which was that they were all liked by Duan Huali. With Duan Huali's playboy personality, any female cultivator with a little bit of beauty would inevitably be disturbed. Ren Zimei had also experienced such a thing in the past, but Duan Huali was just teasing her, so the matter was not very serious. Looking at your expressions, it seems that you know a lot of stories. Why don't you tell us? It's very interesting to talk about this. A smile appeared in Chu Jinfeng's eyes. This is a very famous love triangle. Love triangle? Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were slightly stunned. They had never heard of such a situation. Not bad. At that time, Duan Huali actually took a fancy to Chu Yunyao because she was also very beautiful. Chu Yunyao also had a good impression of Duan Huali. The two of them fell in love at first sight. However, they had just met each other a few times and had a good impression of each other. They spoke a few words, but they didn't even know each other's names. After that, Duan Huali went to the training ground. Who would have thought that he would meet Chu Yunshang during the training? Duan Huali did not know that Chu Yunyao and Chu Yunshang were twin sisters. He only thought that Chu Yunshang was Chu Yunyao. When they were training together, he began to pursue her. After saving Chu Yunshang once, Chu Yunshang also had feelings for him. After Chu Yunshang left the place of experience, she told Chu Yunyao that she already had someone she liked. It happened that Chu Yunyao also said that she had a sweetheart. The two sisters were very happy and planned to invite their sweethearts out to meet each other. Who would have thought that when they met, the situation would be awkward? Duan Huali didn't expect to see two people who looked exactly the same. Suddenly, he couldn't even tell who he liked. Chu Yunshang and Chu Yunyao were naturally dumbfounded. They didn't expect it to turn out like this, and they were embarrassed. No? So interesting? When Xiren couldn't help but be speechless. This kind of thing was really hard to say. Speaking of which, it was impossible to say who was right and who was wrong. Chapter 38:47. It's so interesting. Rinzume nodded. Just thinking about it, you can imagine how awkward the situation was at that time. Bailey Hongzhuang was speechless after knowing all this. She never thought that Duan Huali and Chu Yunyao would fall in love at first sight. Recalling Chu Yunyao's appearance before, it was obvious that she had deep feelings for Duan Huali. It was a pity that her rival turned out to be her own sister. In this way, this matter was really difficult to solve. How was this matter resolved later? Shangguan Yingying asked curiously. Now, Duan Huali doesn't seem to be with anyone. At that time, the three of them were speechless when they understood what was going on. Chu Yunyao thought that Chu Yunshang was a third party, and she was forcibly mixed in between her and Duan Huali. Chu Yunshang also had true feelings for Duan Huali. After all, the two had experienced life and death in the experiential learning place. Duan Huali even saved her. Before she knew this, she had always put all her heart on Duan Huali. As for Duan Huali, he was even more dumbfounded. He had always liked the two sisters as one person. Who would have thought that they would suddenly be divided into two people? He didn't know what to do. Duan Huali should like Chu Yunshang more. At this time, Di Beichun, who had been silent, suddenly spoke out his opinion. As soon as this remark came out, Rinzume couldn't help but look at Di Beichun in surprise. How do you know? Duan Huali fell in love with Chu Yunyao at first sight. This love at first sight was naturally based on appearance. Since Chu Yunshang and Chu Yunyao look exactly the same, what's the difference? On the contrary, Duan Huali and Chu Yunshang have been together for a while in the experiential learning place. This is a real feeling, so the weight in his heart must be Chu Yunshang. After listening to Di Beichun's analysis, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded in agreement. You're right. At that time, Duan Huali gave this answer after thinking about it. After knowing this, Chu Yunshang was very happy. After all, women always liked heroes who save their lives. Moreover, Duan Huali was not weak, and his appearance was also outstanding. In this inner hall, there were many women who liked him. However, Chu Yunyao doesn't have such a good temper. This Chu Yunyao shouldn't be trying to mess up Chu Yunshang and Duan Huali, right? Shangguan Yingying frowned and recalled Chu Yunyao's hysterical look when she talked about Duan Huali. She felt that Chu Yunyao was really likely to do such a thing. That's it. Chu Jinfeng sighed and nodded. To be honest, just based on this point, I am also very speechless about Chu Yunyao. In any case, Chu Yunshang was also her sister. She actually completely regarded her as a rival in love. After knowing that Duan Huali liked Chu Yunshang, Chu Yunyao couldn't accept this and directly made a fuss about it. It seemed that Chu Yunshang was the third party and robbed her sweetheart. In this regard, Chu Yunshang and Duan Huali were also very helpless. In the end, Chu Yunshang still looked at Chu Yunyao as her sister and reluctantly separated from Duan Huali. Although Duan Huali was unwilling, he couldn't help it because Chu Yunshang had made up her mind and Chu Yunyao was too crazy. Chapter 38:48. After listening to all this, Bailey Hongzhuang and others couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. They really didn't expect that there was such a past between Duan Huali and Chu Yunshang. It was really beyond their expectations. It seems that Duan Huali's current appearance had a lot to do with Chu Yunyao. When Xiren sighed, recalling the playboy attitude when they saw Duan Huali before, it was hard to imagine that he had such a serious past. In fact, anyone who meets a woman like Chu Yunyao is very sad. She knows that her sister and Duan Huali have a deep relationship, but because of her own selfishness, she forcibly separated the two of them. Over the years, no matter who Duan Huali likes, Chu Yunyao will inevitably find trouble. If it was someone else, Duan Huali would have already taught them a lesson. The reason why he's been indulging Chu Yunyao is actually for Chu Yunshang's sake. You say if you just fell in love with a woman and the woman died, what kind of feeling would you have? Now, Duan Huali is just playing, and there is no real feelings. Chu Jinfeng shrugged. Although he was not very optimistic about Duan Huali's usual style, he still sympathized with Duan Huali in this matter. It seems that Duan Huali still has feelings for Chu Yunshang. Shangguan Yingying said in surprise. Ren Zime nodded. It should be like this, otherwise Duan Huali would not still indulge Chu Yunyao. When Chu Yunyao kidnapped me last time, what she said was a completely different version. She said that Duan Huali had deep feelings for her, but they were not together because of a freak combination of factors. I said that with Duan Huali's temper, if he really liked her, how could he be with someone else? Shangguan Yingying curled her lips. She was very disdainful of Chu Yunyao's style. At this moment, after knowing all this, she was even more unable to understand. Until now, Chu Yunyao has always regarded Chu Yunshang as a third party, thinking that she was the one who obstructed the feelings between her and Duan Huali. Speaking of which, I admire Chu Yunshang very much. Although they are sisters, they are actually the same age, but she has always been extremely tolerant of Chu Yunyao, which is completely opposite to Chu Yunyao's selfishness. At this time, Rins couldn't help but say, hearing the words Bailey Hongzhuang's, it seems that Chu Yunshang is still very good to her sister. For her sister, she even gave up the man she liked. However, with such a sister, it will be difficult for her to live a peaceful life. That's why I said that Chu Yunyao is a weirdo. When I heard that you had a conflict with her, I already felt that it was very troublesome. Chu Jinfeng said. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. There is nothing to worry about now. We don't have to be afraid of her. In just a few months, their strength has changed a lot from before. If they meet Chu Yunyao again, they don't have to worry. Because even if Chu Yunyao broke through during this period of time, she was only in the first order of star radiance. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was the same as hers, so there was no need to be afraid. If she didn't break through, then Bailey Hongzhuang would completely beat her.